Outside the misty immortal palace, the Korith steward waited, his 9th-level body tempering cultivation, the only thing that had carried him through the half-month journey from Iron Peak City. When Torin emerged, the old man fell to his knees, weeping. "Young master, you've finally come out?" Torin frowned. "Why are you here? Has something happened at home?" The steward composed himself. "After you left, young master?" He recounted Kaelin's sudden ascent to the Starfall transformation realm, and how Roderick had been passed over for an opportunity. Torin sneered. "Interesting, that trash actually reached Starfall transformation. Impossible without some fortuitous encounter." His lip curled. "But even the greatest opportunities belong to me. He doesn't deserve them. Young master, are you returning with me? With your status as a misty immortal palace disciple, the Veilers wouldn't dare stop you." Torin shook his head. "No. I've just joined, and my master arranged for me to enter the Marrowdeep Cleansora poolshade. I can't waste it. But I'll send an outer disciple back with you. He can go to the Veiler family and bring Kaelin here." Commanding an outer disciple was simple enough. Plenty of them fawned over him, eager to prove their loyalty. "Young Master Kaelin has married into the Veiler family. If you don't go personally, they might object. His standing there has been rising steadily." Torin chuckled. "The outer disciples I send are still misty immortal palace members. I don't believe the Veilers would dare stop them. They should be grateful to hand him over obediently. Besides, you said, his cultivation is only at the 2nd level of Starfall transformation. Nothing special." The steward dared not argue. He bowed, showering Torin with flattery. Meanwhile, Kaelin sat in the secretum room, divine sense surging through the astral chart of Evernite, his eyes fixed on the 3rd star, bright with anticipation. "My cultivation has reached the 3rd level of perfection, and my injuries have long since healed. Today I break through this star." He activated the Draconis Elephant Overlord Body Technomar, and the 9 transformations of Starfall transformation, driving his aura to an unprecedented peak. His right hand formed the Gloomvale Lockhaven seal. He struck the 3rd star. It shuddered violently. Cracks spiderwebbed across its surface, slowly widening. "Not enough, keep going." He poured more strength into the seal. Sweat beaded on his forehead as spiritual energy drained rapidly. The cracks grew until the star exploded with a thunderous crash. Kaelin slumped back, panting heavily. The attack had exhausted him completely. "Does it take everything I have every time?" He had discovered a pattern. Each star required the previous technique to be perfected before the next could be shattered. But his face soon lit with joy. He eagerly examined the star's contents. As the smoke cleared, he found a stack of ancient books, each as tall as a man, alongside a large pile of spiritual herbs and medicines emitting a rich fragrance. The pages looked weathered by time. Just as he'd guessed, one book contained a cultivation technique, the 9 transformations of Starfall transformation. He examined it first. As suspected, it covered later cultivation stages, but only up to the 6th level of the Starfall transformation realm. "Looks like the difficulty increases further in." He didn't know what grade of treasure the astral chart of Evernite was, but the stellar laws within seemed arranged so he could only progress after perfecting each stage. He stored the technique with satisfaction, then turned to the other books. Alchemical texts, pharmacopoeias. His expression shifted through surprise to shock. The collection contained descriptions of rare spiritual herbs, their uses, and various rare pill formulas. If these got out, the entire Marshallon Empyrean state would be thrown into chaos. The alchemist profession was highly sought after. Even a first-grade alchemist commanded respect everywhere. Becoming one required not just talent, but vast accumulation of spiritual herbs. Talent alone wasn't enough without experience. In a city as large as Iron Peak, only one first-grade alchemist resided in the City Lord's mansion, and even the City Lord treated him with great respect. They were simply too precious. Though Kaelin had never met an alchemist, he knew their value. Even Seraphis Realm experts wouldn't provoke a first-grade alchemist. Everyone eventually needed their pills. Alchemists didn't rely on cultivation level, but on spirit and soul strength. Without a strong spirit, one couldn't control the heat during refinement, leading to furnace explosions. He studied seriously now. He'd longed to learn alchemy since childhood, but it had been impossible. Now that he had the chance, he devoured the basics, then searched the pill formulas desperately, hoping to find one that could remove Alara's birthmark. This is the Astravi Pilvora. It can eliminate various intractable ailments caused by congenital factors and repair congenital deficiencies. He'd found it. Alara's birthmark is congenital. The Astravi Pilvora is exactly what's needed. His face beamed, then slowly froze. The Astravi Pilvora, a third-grade elixir. A third-grade pill demands at least a third-grade alchemist, and such alchemists are vanishingly rare. Even if one could be found, there was no reason they would help. When Kalen saw the spiritual herbs and medicines required for the Astravi Pilvora, his composure nearly shattered. Heart-binding leather, Octavra Divorn spirit blood, crimson fire dried fruit. The names alone made his head throb. Many of the ingredients were entirely unknown to him. He steadied himself, took a breath, and began combing through the herbals. Heart-binding leather, he learned, was a companion plant whose flowered roots intertwine until they fuse into a leathery mass. Crimson fire dried fruit coalesced from the essence of crimson fire trees older than 1,000 years. But the Octavra Divorn spirit blood appeared in none of the herbals. He found it only in the bestiaries, the blood essence of the Octavra Divorn Atheris Simeonor, a spirit monkey of formidable intelligence and combat prowess. His head buzzed. Refining the Astravi Pilvora was supposed to be difficult, but this was the most difficult of all third-grade pills, its materials so costly that the finished pill commanded a price rivaling fourth-grade medicines. "Forget it," he muttered. "Cultivation first, materials later." He had already reached the third level of the Starfall transformation, poised on the brink of breakthrough. 3 days later, a muffled boom rolled through the secret room. He opened his eyes, joy rising, early stage of the 4th level. He emerged to find the corridor empty. Alara had not stood guard as instructed. The Vela family was safe, and her presence at the door would have changed nothing if danger came. Before he reached the hall, voices drifted out. "Sis, hasn't my sister-in-law come out yet? You're not lying to me, are you?" Seraphina. Alara's answering smile was wry. "Why would I lie? He really is in seclusion. When will my brother-in-law come out?" Kalen stepped into the doorway. The two women turned. Seraphina beat him to it. "Oh, brother-in-law, you're out. I thought you were hiding and didn't want to see me." He frowned, glancing at Alara. She covered her mouth, amused. "This girl has been coming every day since you went into seclusion. She has a lot of questions." "I've been in seclusion a while," Kalen said. "Haha, I knew you couldn't refuse me, brother-in-law." She laughed. "You still haven't told me how you met the Borealis Pavilion master of the Aurelia Pavilion, and... A quarter hour passed. Kalen stood. "I need to go out, you two talk. Brother-in-law, take me with you." Seraphina's expression turned pleading. Goosebumps rose on his arms. Her mouth had not stopped moving for 15 minutes. He was genuinely frightened. He had business at the Aurelia Pavilion anyway, gratitude to offer, and inquiries to make about the Astravi Pilvora's materials. "Inconvenient," he said, and fled. Alara's voice followed him down the hall. "My father said to see him when you're done." She had nearly forgotten, drowned out by Seraphina's chatter. Garrick could wait. Kalen walked to a city pharmacy first, purchasing the more common herbs for the pill, then continued to the Aurelia Pavilion. The first floor teemed with customers despite the steep prices. Reputation drew them. He bypassed the crowd, ascending to the second floor, the profound level. The same 2 guards stood at the entrance. This time he passed without revealing his aura. Inside he spotted the girl who had introduced him to the blood spirit Ginzeng. She recognized him instantly, smiling. "Hello, I'd like to see Valerius. Is he available?" "Of course, sir. Please wait a moment." He took a seat at a tea table. Tea appeared before he could ask. The girl returned shortly. "The Borealis Pavilion Master requests your presence." He followed her upward, 3 levels in succession past the Celestra and Seraphis floors, to a pavilion of disarming simplicity. Ordinary as a roadside restaurant, unadorned, unpretentious. Valerius sat in a chair, studying him with a smile. "You've arrived, not bad, already, the 4th level of Starfall transformation." Kalen bowed deeply, sincerely. "Thank you for your help last time, haha. No need for such formality, it was nothing. It may be small to you, but it was everything to me. I remember the favor, don't thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank my young lady. She told me to help you if you needed anything." The name struck Kalen like a physical blow. Aelindra Thalir, Valerius's young lady. The Borealis Pavilion master of the Aurelia Pavilion, and the woman he served. If she truly was the Aelindra he knew, her reach was far more terrifying than he had imagined. Thoughts cascaded through him in the span of a heartbeat. Valerius read the shock on his face and smiled. You guessed correctly. The Alindra you mentioned is my young lady. As for her identity, that is not mine to reveal. You may ask her yourself, should the opportunity arise. Kalen nodded, the motion stiff. A pause, then, why does she want your help? He could not reconcile it. The woman had intervened when he bought the blood spirit ginseng, and now she had pulled Valerius into it again. What did she gain? The old man chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. My young lady said you helped her win 100,000 spirit stones. The number hung in the air. 100,000. Alindra had mentioned it before, but the meaning had slipped past him entirely. Last time you fought Thornveiler, she wagered on you, Valerius explained, amusement crinkling the corners of his eyes. She also said you are interesting, that you may become someone formidable. That was reason enough. He leaned back. It is a fortunate connection to have established. My young lady has always had an eye for people. Kalen inclined his head, filing the debt away in the quiet ledger he kept behind his ribs. He would repay it when he could. Eldamir Orin, he said, shifting. Aside from thanking you, I hope to purchase some medicinal herbs. I wonder if your pavilion carries. Oh, Valerius's smile widened. The Aurelia Pavilion holds countless treasures. Name what you need. Kalen rattled off the list. Heart-binding leather, Octavra Devorn spirit blood, crimson fire dried fruit, and several others. He watched Valerius's expression darken with each name, the old man's face settling into something close to thunder. Mr. Orin? Kalen ventured. Do you have these in your pavilion? Valerius fixed him with a flat look. What does a mere Starfall transformation realm boy need with heart-binding leather, Octavra Devorn spirit blood, and crimson fire? Do you know what these cost? They are 4th-grade pill materials, precious beyond measure. Kalen coughed. I only heard they can treat birthmarks. I wanted to try birthmark. The irritation drained from Valerius's voice, replaced by something sharper, curiosity. You are doing this for your wife? Kalen nodded. He would not speak of the Astravi Pilvora. The formula was too dangerous if it fell into the wrong hands, and trust, even for a benefactor, was not something he granted lightly. I have some of what you need, Valerius said, but not heart-binding leather or Octavra Devorn spirit blood. As for the crimson fire dried fruit, even a small section costs 5,000 spirit stones. The number landed like a stone in water, 5,000. For a fragment. That was the price of a high-grade Ashen-level magic weapon. He might not raise that sum if he sold the entire Valar family. Valerius watched his face, a private satisfaction curling his lips. I'm not gouging you, boy, you have read the records. You know the crimson fire dried fruit's provenance. The Aurelia Pavilion is the only place you will find it for sale. Kalen nodded slowly. The ancient text in the astral chart of Evernite confirmed it. Then I will take the rest, he said quietly. He left the pavilion with tears pricking his eyes. 900 spirit stones reduced to a few dozen. The Astravi Pilvora was nearly complete. Only 3 ingredients remained: heart-binding leather, Octavra Devorn spirit blood, and crimson fire dried fruit. The last could be bought, given enough coin. The butler was pacing at the Valar estate entrance when Kalen returned. He hurried forward the moment he spotted him. Third Master, the Patriarch requests your presence. Kalen followed him to the main hall, mind drifting to Ilara. He had meant to bring her with him when he returned, but the summons had come faster than expected. Garrick sat on the dais, his expression layered, wariness, calculation, something approximating respect. Since Kalen had disclosed his connection to Valerius, the Patriarch had ordered the entire household to treat him with deference exceeding even direct bloodline. Servants at Ilara's villa had tripled from 3 to 10. Garrick himself had visited several times during Kalen's seclusion, though they had not met. Afterward, Seraphina had cornered him, and in the chaos he had not noticed the expanded staff. Ilara had had no chance to explain. Kalen, you have returned. Garrick's laugh was loud, performative. How was your seclusion? Have the injuries from your match with Ashendravos healed? Healed, they were minor. Good, good, Garrick leaned forward. How did you meet Eldamir Orin? What is the nature of your relationship? He did not believe the shopping story. The Aurelia Pavilion saw countless visitors daily. The idea that its master would remember one boy was absurd. We met while shopping, Kalen said. The same answer he had given before. Garrick fell silent, assuming evasion. He did not press. He did not know it was the truth. In 10 days, Garrick continued, tone shifting to business. The Vela family will contend with over a dozen surrounding cities for mining rights to a spirit stone vein. The rules restrict participants to family members under 25. I want you to represent us. Are you willing? The competition for the Lingara Shirith vein had dragged on for years. 500 miles east of Iron Peak City, the spirit stone deposit had once belonged to a minor clan whose weakness invited predation. The major families wiped them out to the last member and divided the spoils. Though sizable, the vein was only second-rate, its output limited, so the victors agreed to settle extraction rights through a friendly competition held every 3 years, open only to clan members under 25. The winner secured 3 years of mining privileges. Originally, Thorn was set to participate, Garrick said with a smile, but he's still recovering from injury, and his strength falls far short of yours. Kalen considered briefly, then nodded. Good, good, good! You truly are a worthy son-in-law of the Velas. Garrick was overjoyed, though he knew the truth. Even with Thorn, their chances were nearly non-existent. Thorn was no match for Ashen, and this year several families had sent disciples who had already joined cultivation sects, specifically to compete. In the past, the Velas had never won the rights and had long since given up hope. But Kalen's arrival had rekindled their ambition. After leaving Garrick, Kalen returned straight to the villa. Seraphina had already departed, leaving only Alara in the hall. He told her about the Spirit Stone mine and listened as she updated him on recent events in Iron Peak City and the Vela family. All's well in Iron Peak City. The Velas have improved our treatment considerably. Our monthly allowance has risen to 30 Spirit Stones. That was no small sum. Even Draconis clan elders received only 20 per month. Kalen nodded. The shift in attitude was welcome. Then, softly, he said, Alara, remove your veil. I want to see your face. She started, unprepared for the request. In name they were husband and wife, yet nothing had ever passed between them, not even a held hand. What's wrong? I'm ugly. Her voice trembled. He smiled gently. We're already married. Even if you were, I'd still be your husband. I only want to see the birthmark to know if it can be removed. My father consulted countless famous doctors after I was born. None could do anything. Disappointment clouded her eyes. I fear there's no cure. You're my wife, we're married. His tone turned serious. I won't lie to you. Whatever it takes, I'll find a way to remove that birthmark. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She had endured endless scorn in the Vela family. Her mother had vanished after her birth, and her father had ignored her entirely because of the mark. Since childhood she had hidden behind a scarf, leaving her deeply insecure, her world shrouded in darkness. Kalen's arrival had sparked the first glimmer of light, someone who genuinely cared regardless of appearance. She lifted the veil slowly. A fair, almond-shaped face emerged, with clear bright eyes and a high straight nose, beauty that would have been breathtaking, save for the vivid red birthmark marring half her features. As outsiders cruelly said, half her face looked like a ghost's. She trembled, terrified her appearance would repulse him. Eyes locked on his. Sensing her fear, Kalen stepped forward, took her hand and said softly, Don't be afraid, it's all right. The words seemed to carry a quiet power, steadying her. She nodded obediently. Trust me, I'll do everything I can to restore your face. His sincerity was absolute, a promise. She nodded, tears welling, and buried herself in his arms, the embrace of her nominal husband. For the next 7 days, Kalen remained in the secretum room, not only cultivating but poring over ancient texts. His knowledge of spiritual herbs, medicines, and alchemy expanded greatly. With the astral chart of Evernight's resources, he broke through to the mid-stage of the 4th level of the Starfall transformation realm. His strength had risen, though he couldn't gauge it precisely. The 9 transformations of Starfall transformation meant he could likely contend with a 5th-level cultivator. Even against the middle-aged Morel who had harassed him at the Aurelia Pavilion, he could now at least put up a fight, and if determined to escape, Morel wouldn't be able to stop him. It's time. He opened his eyes, aura concealed. Today was the competition. Kalen changed into a clean white robe, left the secret room, greeted Alara, and headed straight for the Vela family's main hall. All the elders were present. Garrick stood beside the main seat. The patriarch occupied it. He was personally leading the team this time. Spirit stone veins determined whether a clan could rise, and the Velas had fallen far behind. If this continued, they would soon be reduced to insignificance. Kalen entered, startled by the grandeur of the gathering. He had underestimated the vein's importance to them, but his expression remained serious. The elders regarded him with gentle eyes as if he were their own junior. "Kaelin, this is my father, your grandfather." Garrick introduced the patriarch seated on the main dais. Kaelin had married into the Veilers, and their patriarch was, by all rights, his grandfather. Yet the introduction still sat crooked in his chest, as if a stranger had materialized and demanded he call him grandfather. No one would feel good about it. He bowed anyway, voice steady. "Kaelin greets, Grandpa." The old man smiled, nodding. "Good. You're quite good." He glanced across the gathering. "Now that Kaelin is here, let us set off. This time the Veilers are determined to take the Spirit Stone mine." The Draconis ancestor had reached the Seraphis realm and could fly, but not carry a group for long. 3 days later, 500 li east of Iron Peak City, the powerful families of the region converged. The Veilers stood among them, led by their patriarch, with Kaelin, Garrick, Thorn, and a train of elders in tow. Thorn had not come to compete, Garrick had brought him to watch. Kaelin swept his gaze over the crowd. These were the ruling houses of the major cities, and the pressure radiating from many of them was suffocating. He spotted the Dravos clan, Ashen among them, his gaze sharpening with something complicated at the sight of Kaelin. The Luminars were present too, though Cedric was nowhere to be seen. He counted 9 families, though he had learned en route there were 10 in total. "Is there still one place to go?" he muttered. A roar split the air. A colossal beast materialized overhead, hundreds of meters long, blotting out the sky. Every head snapped upward, even Kaelin drew a sharp breath. The creature landed and dozens of figures dropped from its back. The moment the newcomers appeared, the Veiler patriarch and his elders grew visibly graver. The other family heads wore matching grimness. A white-haired elder stood out among the dozen who had descended. He laughed, clasping his hands. "Fellow Taoists, I have kept you waiting." Another patriarch, his aura no weaker than the Veiler patriarch's, answered with a laugh. "Brother Branno, you are late. Branno, in previous years, your family claimed the most mining rights. This year may be time for a change. Your mount, a thunder crimson spirit sparrow. Quite the grand gesture," a third remarked, clicking his tongue. The speakers were all patriarchs. Even the Veiler patriarch chimed in. "Branno, it has been many years, and you are still the same." Branno looked around, smiling, but when his eyes fell on the Draconis patriarch, surprise flickered. "Branno, you are still alive?" He laughed loudly. The Draconis patriarch sneered. "You old bastard, you're not dead yet, so why should I be?" Kaelin frowned. What was the relationship between them? Garrick glanced at him and Thorn, catching their confusion, and pitched his voice low. "Father and Branno were close friends in their youth, extremely intimate. I don't know what happened later to make them fall out." Kaelin understood then. No wonder their exchanges always carried that strange edge. "But father, why is everyone so polite to Branno?" Thorn asked, voicing Kaelin's own question. Garrick nodded slowly. "The Morongis are very powerful, the strongest of the 10 great families. For years they've held half the Spirit Stone vein rights. They've controlled the mines for a long time, widening the gap with everyone else." He sighed. The Veilers were considered the strongest in Iron Peak City, but against the Morongis the gulf was enormous. Branno frowned, standing so close he had heard every word. His expression darkened, but he did not react. Instead he mocked. "Branno, your mount, a thunder crimson spirit sparrow with cultivation comparable to the late Seraphis realm, is not something your family could subdue. Where did you get it?" The question hung in the air, the one every patriarch wanted answered. A demonic beast at the late Tengara realm was monstrously powerful. Human cultivators of the same level were no match, let alone taming one as a mount. Branno smiled, chuckling. "This thunder crimson spirit sparrow was not tamed by me, but by Eldamir of Luminor Cave Heaven, who bestowed it upon us." Disbelief rippled through the crowd. Some looked shocked, others puzzled. Luminor Cave Heaven was a renowned sect in the Marshallon Empyrean state, second only to Misty Immortal Palace. Why would they gift such a mount to the Morongis? Branno drank in their expressions. "That's right, a gift from an elder of Luminor Cave Heaven. If you want to know why, my family has produced an unparalleled genius who became that elder's disciple. The elder loves talent and extends that love to the family, so he bestowed this mount. The Morongis all wore arrogance like a mantle. A disciple valued by Luminor Cave Heaven elders was a source of pride for the entire clan." The other families' faces hardened. The Morongis were already dominant, with Luminor Cave Heaven's backing. The gap had become a chasm. The Vela patriarch sighed deeply, glancing back at his clan, melancholy settling in his chest. The other patriarchs shared the sentiment. If the Murongis grew stronger, they would expand and encroach on everyone's interests. "All right, enough," said. "The competition shall begin." Branna smiled faintly. By rule, the family that held the mine last time presided over the next contest. The rules remain the same. Each family sends one person to spar. The 5 winners then spar with one person each, with one receiving a bye. Finally, the remaining 3 spar and the winners receive mining rights for the next 3 years. Garrick had briefed Kalen on the rules before. They matched what he had already heard. Morongis glanced around the assembly, a faint smile touching his lips. "Each family, please step forward." Across every major territory, a young representative emerged. The Vela patriarch turned, met Kalen's gaze, and gave a slight nod. Kalen returned it and walked into the open space. Thorn watched with a tangle of emotions he could not name. The role had been his to fill, yet it had fallen to Kalen. The 10 contestants formed a line at the center of the gathering. 9 men, 1 woman. She wore a cold expression, yet an indescribable heroic air clung to her. The Wang representative was Ashen. He might have posed a threat once, but after Kalen reached the 4th level of the Starfall transformation realm, that threat had evaporated. The other representatives all wore the same bone-deep arrogance Kalen had first seen in Thorn. The Luminar representative was a young man whose gaze kept drifting toward Kalen, deliberately or not. "Does this kid know me?" Kalen sensed a deep malice radiating from him. He paid little mind to the other combatants, but he kept a close eye on the Branna Vela representative. Only from him did Kalen sense genuine danger. As expected of the Morongis, they're a cut above the rest. He committed every face to memory. "All right, everyone, state your name and write it on a slip," the Branna elder said calmly from the stage. A middle-aged servant in Branna livery approached with paper and brush. "Ashen," the first man announced his name, wrote it with his head held high, yet his eyes kept flicking toward Kalen. Liriana. Kalen noted she was the sole woman among the major families. Corvin, the Luminar representative's turn. Of everyone present, he bore the deepest malice toward Kalen. The servant finally reached Kalen and held out the paper and brush. "Kalen." He spoke calmly, wrote his name, and handed back the slip. But the moment the name left his mouth, the atmosphere shifted. "Branna, what's your Vela family playing at? Sending someone surnamed Korith?" a patriarch demanded, baffled. "Haven't you forgotten the rules? Only family members may compete. Has your Vela family lost so many years running that you're hiring outside help?" Laughter rippled through the crowd. Patriarchs from every clan chimed in with jeers. "Branna, why not just withdraw? You've never won once anyway. So what's the game, finding a ringer surnamed Korith? Branna, if you're going to fake it, at least coordinate your stories. Have the kid change his surname. Call him Longfan, not Kalen." The speaker laughed heartily. Not only the patriarchs, but elders and disciples joined the mockery. The 9 contestants beside Kalen regarded him with strange eyes. Garrick flew into a rage. "What nonsense! Kalen is a member of my Vela family. Isn't my son-in-law a member of my Vela family too? A live-in son-in-law." The crowd erupted again. The Vela family scraped the barrel, sending a son-in-law. "Is he here to die? Branor, you've brought a live-in husband? No one else left? If he were a true prodigy, he wouldn't have married into your Vela family." Amid the ridicule, the Wang and Su clans stayed silent. They knew exactly how strong Kalen was. "Enough!" Garrick roared, scanning the assembly. "The rule we set was that only family members could marry in. My son-in-law is a Long. Where's the violation?" Behind him, long faces went ashen, especially Thorn, the brightest of his generation, forced to watch his clan mocked. "Old scoundrel Branna, rule on this. Has my Vela family erred?" Garrick turned to Morongis. The ancestor coughed lightly, then chuckled. "By the rules, a man who marries into the Vela family may indeed represent them. There, no rule broken. What's left to argue?" Garrick glared impatiently, but the other patriarchs didn't care. A live-in son-in-law, what did that matter? Kalen's face stayed calm, but his mood had soured. The surrounding scions looked at him with utter contempt. The woman's disdain was sharpest. She saw him as nothing more than a gigolo. Chenvar, Eldrick, Darian. The roll call finished in a blink. The Branner servants collected the slips into a wooden box. Of everyone present, only Darian held Kaelin's attention. Though male, he radiated an inexplicable effeminate aura that repelled. Begin the lottery. Those called, step forward. Morongis reached into the box and drew 2 slips. Kaelin? Chenvar? First match, Kaelin's turn. Chenvar grinned broadly and strode out. Kaelin ignored him and walked forward steadily. Begin. Morongis vanished. The open space where he had stood became the arena. Chenvar laughed. What luck! Drawing the live-in son-in-law first. Victory is mine. His aura surged to the 4th level of the Starfall transformation realm. Not yet 20. Definitely a genius. He dismissed Kaelin entirely. Chenvar moved like a thunderbolt, fierce pressure crashing toward Kaelin. Gasps rose from the crowd. Chenvar's strength was formidable. Many already mourned the son-in-law. Then their eyes widened. A cry rang out as Kaelin's kick caught Chenvar mid-charge, launching him backward faster than he had come, completely out of control. But Kaelin didn't stop. He accelerated, caught up, and unleashed a ruthless flurry of punches and kicks. Blood sprayed. No, stop hitting him. The onlookers swallowed hard, the scene too terrifying to process. Kaelin had beaten Chenvar until his face was a mask of blood, the sickening crack of bones echoing through the arena while clan members trembled. Is he even human? I yield, please, stop. Chenvar begged, his features ruined beyond recognition. The fight had ended in less than 5 breaths. Everything after was simple butchery. The Chenvar patriarch's face flushed crimson, his body shaking with rage. Behind him his clansmen wore identical expressions of humiliated fury. I have seen embarrassing things before, but never anything this humiliating. The Valar patriarch laughed loud and long. Old man, still convinced your clan stands a chance? Valar family members erupted in laughter, their earlier anger vanishing in an instant, replaced by a giddy, vindicated relief. The Chenvar patriarch snorted coldly, forcing himself not to explode as he watched Chenvar limp away, broken and bloody. Further outburst would only deepen the shame. Kaelin wins the first match. Ancestor Morongis looked surprised. He had only stepped away for a cup of tea. Kaelin nodded, his own anger draining away as he descended to stand among the remaining 8 competitors. Mocking expressions had vanished, replaced by solemn calculation. The displayed strength was too astonishing. It was not that Chenvar was weak. He stood at the 4th level of Starfall transformation, but that his opponent was simply too strong. Murmurs rippled through the audience. What happened? Chenvar is no weakling, yet he fell so quickly. Kaelin's aura suggested the 4th level as well, but the gap. No wonder the Valers sent a son-in-law, they came prepared. Treacherous. Conspiracy theories took root. A powerful prodigy married in to seize the Spirit Stone mines. None of them guessed how wrong they were. Darian, Eldrick, Ancestor Morongis called the next names. The Morongis clan's turn. Both men stepped onto the arena floor. Eldrick's face was grave. He faced a Morongis genius and knew he needed absolute focus. Darian, by contrast, wore a faint, gentle smile, almost feminine. Goosebumps rose on spectators' arms. Even Kaelin felt the wrongness of it, but no one dared underestimate him. He was anything but ordinary. Begin. The ancestor vanished. Eldrick held nothing back. At 25, he was the oldest representative present, his cultivation at the 5th level of Starfall transformation. Before a single blow was exchanged, he pushed his power to its limit, determined to strike first. Darian remained unconcerned. Eldrick moved like a thunder dragon, faster than Chenvar had been, a long sword materializing in his hand as he slashed downward. 3 golden-backed swords. Gasps rose from the crowd. An ashen-grayed magic weapon, one of the Dengor clan's treasures. I never expected Eldrick to wield it. The blade descended, an inch from Darian's skull, poised to cleave him in 2. A killing strike. Kaelin frowned, unprepared for such lethality in a sparring match. Eldrick had played his trump card immediately. Even a strong opponent would suffer grievously against a full-force assault. Then the impossible happened. As the sword neared, Darian's expression shifted. A chilling aura erupted from his body, and Eldrick shuddered, his strike slowing fractionally. Darian slipped aside. The blade regained momentum but struck only earth. Eldrick realized his peril too late. Darian counterattacked. The precious sword meant nothing if it could not cut its target. Darian's aura surged, 5th level Starfall transformation, far denser than Eldrick's, Fists clenched, he unleashed a ferocious assault. Eldrick tried to dodge and block. Both stood at the 5th level. Even if Darian was stronger, Eldrick should have defended. Yet every blow landed. Eldrick moved like a man under water, sluggish and helpless, utterly dominated. Finally, he coughed blood and collapsed unconscious. The match ended. Darian won. The Dengor clan wore grim masks. They had not expected defeat after securing the 3 golden-backed swords. The battle left them baffled. Only the Dengor patriarch sighed, worry etching his face, and silently ordered his men to carry the unconscious warrior away. The gap is too great. Darian's strength likely rivals an ordinary 6th-level cultivator. A genius, a true genius. Darian smiled, effeminate and unbothered, and rejoined Kaelin and the others. Gazes shifted, waited with new wariness. Even Kaelin's the fight had been deeply strange, impossible to anticipate. Next, Liriana, the competition continued. The remaining clan representatives displayed genuinely impressive strength by Kaelin's estimation. Darian's talent was formidable, perhaps the strongest he had ever encountered, save for his younger brother Taurin. But age mattered. Kaelin was 19, Taurin 16. Darian appeared several years older, which dulled the comparison slightly. Still, astonishing. In the end, Liriana, at the 4th level of Starfall transformation, narrowly claimed victory and entered the top 5. Corvin dominated his match with 5th-level cultivation. The final 3, Kaelin, Darian and Fenris of the Sealaw clan. Fenris defeated Ashen to secure the last spot. Though Kaelin noted Ashen's unhealed injuries from a previous bout, his true strength had not been shown. The first round comprised only 5 matches, yet the caliber on display was staggering. Thorn's face had darkened. He had always regarded himself as a Vela prodigy, but the gulf between him and these contestants was humbling. His cultivation sat at the 2nd level of the Starfall transformation realm. Without the injury Kaelin inflicted and the lingering after-effects of the Purpura fire pilverer, he would already have reached the 3rd. Even then he would not have matched the disciples of the other families. After an hour's respite, the 2nd round of lots commenced. The rules stipulated 2 matches per contestant, with one receiving a bye into the final. Ancestor Morongis stood on the platform, surveyed the crowd, and drew the first pairing. Darian, Fenris. Kaelin was not selected. Fenris's expression was grave. Darian was the undisputed favorite. Before they stepped onto the arena floor, the ancestor withdrew, leaving them alone. The competition begins. All eyes fixed on the pair. Darian's reputation preceded him, but Fenris stood at the 5th level of Starfall transformation and had performed admirably in the previous round. He had studied Darian's earlier fight and noted the strange sluggishness that overtook opponents once they engaged. Rather than rush in, Fenris held his ground, keeping enough distance that any advance would buy him time. Fenris is clever, Kaelin observed. If Fenris's movements and attacks slowed like Eldrick's had, he would be helpless. Yet Darian seemed unconcerned, watching with a calm, effeminate smile. Fenris shifted uncomfortably under that gaze. He drew a handful of talismans from his storage bag, chanted and hurled them. Fulgura talismans, someone exclaimed. Even Kaelin was startled. A Fulgura talisman required a Transcendence Realm master to craft, cost 10 spirit stones each, and was single-use, the weakest of its class, its damage roughly equal to a 5th-level Starfall transformation cultivator. Activating one consumed the user's own spiritual power, rendering them largely impractical. Few bothered with them. Fenris threw more than a dozen, an assault equivalent to over 10 5th-level cultivators striking at once. It was the only ranged option he had. His storage bag held nothing else. He had meant to save them for when his spiritual power ran dry, but Darian's peculiar ability forced his hand. Below the profound core realm, magical techniques could not manifest their true power, and mere fist winds or airwaves were useless against peers. Darian did not flinch. He produced a palm-sized tortoise shell, murmured an incantation, and the shell swelled into a towering barrier. The talismans detonated against it in a rolling thunderclap, waves of energy rippling across the platform. Darian did not move. Every strike was absorbed. Murmurs rose. What manner of treasure was this? The patriarchs wore solemn faces, except Branna, who smiled faintly. The Sealer patriarch's voice cut cold. Branna, does deploying a weapon of this caliber not violate the rules? Branna shook his head, unruffled. No cause for anger. This shell was not a gift from my Morongis family. Then who? A mid-grade ashen weapon at minimum, possibly high-grade. The declaration sent a shock through the assembly, Kaelin included. The Valar unicorn dagger and the Dravos white mist sword were only low-grade ashen. Correct, Branna said. It was bestowed upon Darien by an elder of Luminor Cave Heaven. Even the Thunder Crimson Spirit Sparrow came to my family because of him. Astonishment rippled outward. The prodigy courted by Luminor Cave Heaven's elders was Darien. Faces darkened. The Sealor patriarchs went ashen, but he had no retort. He might defy the Morongis, but against a behemoth like Luminor Cave Heaven, resistance was unthinkable. Branor surveyed the room, satisfied, exactly the message he had intended. On the stage, Fenris's options were exhausted. Close combat remained. He gritted his teeth and charged, resolved to die fighting. He overcommitted. As he closed the distance, the same lethargy that had claimed Eldrick seized him, movements slowing, reactions dulling. The match ended in an instant. Uproar erupted, fueled not only by Darien's victory but by the revelation of his patronage. Darien descended with easy grace, smiling as he nodded to Kaelin and the others. Unease prickled Kaelin's skin. The opponent's strength was too uncanny. Next match, Kaelin, Corvin, the ancestor announced. Liriana receives a bye and advances directly to the final. Kaelin's opponent was Corvin, whose hostility had never been subtle. Kaelin knew its source without asking. Cedric. They took the platform, and once Branor withdrew, their gazes locked. Kaelin. I've found you at last. I swore to avenge my brother, Corvin said, his aura flaring, the ground trembling beneath his feet. So it is him. Then come, let's see if you're worthy. Corvin was Cedric's older brother. When Kaelin had beaten Cedric badly, the older brother flew into a rage. He hated Kaelin to the core. He had planned to wait for a chance to avenge his sibling in the future, but he never expected Kaelin to fight on behalf of the Valar family, handing him the perfect opportunity. Corvin produced a long spear and unleashed his 5th-level Starfall transformation cultivation, charging straight at Kaelin. He was not that good-for-nothing Chenvar. He was confident he could defeat Chenvar in an instant. It's the Luminar family's Solaray Hastael. Someone immediately recognized the weapon as a low-grade Ashen-level magic weapon. The Valar patriarch below looked grim, filled with regret. After losing the Voidheart Hornblade, his clan still possessed an Ashen-grade weapon he had been using. He should have lent it to Kaelin for this test. He simply hadn't expected Kaelin to perform so amazingly. The disciples sent by the various families were all geniuses, yet the strength Kaelin displayed when defeating Chenvar surprised him greatly. He was even stronger than during their spar 10 days ago. It's my fault, the patriarch murmured, his expression complex. If Kaelin lost because he lacked a magic weapon, the blame rested entirely on him. One wonders what the patriarch would think if he knew Kaelin had sold the clan's Voidheart Horn blade for 1,200 spirit stones to buy a birthday gift for Garrick. Kaelin's expression was solemn. He dared not be careless against Corvin's assault. The spear excelled at thrusting, slashing, and parrying, especially with a low-grade Ashen-level magic weapon in hand. Every move was fierce and powerful. Closing the distance to attack would be difficult. A spear's reach exceeded a sword's, so he couldn't handle Corvin the way he had handled Ashen. Corvin laughed heartily, relishing the sight of Kaelin retreating. Stop dodging, you piece of trash. You severely injured my brother that day. Today I'll take your life. He had practiced spearmanship since childhood. His marksmanship was superb, his attacks incredibly swift and fierce. Kaelin remained silent, his figure retreating continuously. He tried to find an opening to counterattack, but every attempt was blocked. Damn it. His right shoulder was grazed, but before he could fully dodge, the spear fell like an iron rod. He twisted aside and retreated. After more than 10 exchanges, he was completely on the defensive. The Luminar family members below the stage grew excited. Their man had completely suppressed his opponent, so their spirits soared. The Valar family members looked grim. They hadn't expected Kaelin to suffer because he lacked a magic weapon. Garrick glanced at his patriarch and stayed silent. He had previously suggested lending the clan's Ashen rank weapon to Kaelin. More than 30 rounds passed in a blink. Kaelin had taken quite a beating. He had no suitable magical artifact in his storage bag. After a quick thought, he formed a ruthless plan. This is the only way, he muttered. Retreating hundreds of meters, he closed his eyes, his divine sense diving into the astral chart of Evernight. He grabbed spiritual herbs and medicines and stuffed them into his mouth. Outside, seeing Kaelin close his eyes, Corvin sneered. Kaelin, you piece of trash, are you scared? You actually closed your eyes, thinking of ways to deal with me? Let me tell you, trash is trash. He finished speaking and charged, spear in hand. Kaelin kept his eyes shut. Although he didn't know what the other intended, ending the battle quickly was paramount. Not just him, everyone watching was baffled. Was he trying to find a solution? Corvin was incredibly fast. In a blink he stood before Kaelin, thrusting at his chest. A lethal strike. But just as the tip reached half an inch from flesh, Kaelin's eyes snapped open, a cold glint within. He dodged sideways, and the longsword pierced his left shoulder blade. Seeing the successful stab, Corvin smiled broadly. He tried to yank the spear free for another thrust, but found it wouldn't budge. Everyone gasped, eyes wide. Even Corvin froze, his smile dying, unable to fathom what was happening. Kaelin endured the pain and clamped his left hand around the shaft, piercing his body. "Let go! What are you doing?" Corvin shouted, a strong sense of crisis rising. Kaelin's lips curled into a chilling smile. "Now it's my turn to attack." No one understood. Then they saw him drive forward, forcing the Solare Hastael deeper. He didn't stop. He walked step by step until he stood face to face with Corvin. Damn it. What are you doing?" Corvin panicked. He tugged with all his strength, but the weapon didn't move an inch. Kaelin gripped the shaft with his left hand, clenched his right fist, and swung with everything he had. Corvin screamed. Both hands locked on his spear, he couldn't defend as blow after blow landed. 1 punch, 5, 10. Corvin coughed blood. He never expected such a ruthless method. He kicked Kaelin during the barrage, but the latter seemed immune to pain, utterly unconcerned. Yet he couldn't let go. The Solare Hastael was his clan's most precious treasure. Without it, he had no confidence of victory. The crowd gasped in shock, never dreaming anyone would use such a method. Even if a normal person conceived it, they'd never execute it. Only a madman would. Seeing Corvin spit blood, the Luminar family's smiles vanished, replaced by grim faces. The Vela family also looked worried. An ashen-level weapon piercing the body was no joke. Thorn's expression was complex, but this time he was truly convinced of Kaelin's ability. In a blink, Corvin's mouth ran red, yet he endured, refusing to release his grip. He continuously poured power into the Solare Hastael. It was a low-grade ashen-level magic weapon. With it skewering him, Kaelin suffered inhuman agony, yet at that moment, he suddenly grinned, his right hand forming a seal, Golthor lock. He poured every ounce of power into the seal and slammed it into Corvin's neck. The aura was fierce, the seal blazed with dazzling golden light. Corvin was shocked. He tried to recoil but suddenly coughed a mouthful of blood. The earlier beating hadn't been meaningless. It had softened him for this final strike. With a loud bang, Corvin collapsed, blood spewing from his mouth. No one at the scene expected Kaelin to be so ruthless, or that he would still have the strength to unleash a killing move after being stabbed by the Solare Hastael. "A boat," the Luminar Patriarch blurted, rushing onto the arena without thinking. The Draconis Patriarch arrived in a flash, standing beside Kaelin to check his injuries. Corvin was spitting blood incessantly, his entire body drenched in crimson. The vessels in his neck had burst, exposing white bone. Unconscious and not even breathing, only a faint heartbeat proved he still lived. Though Kaelin's injuries were severe, they paled beside his opponents. The Draconis Patriarch helped remove the Solare Hastael. Kaelin groaned, then swallowed a pill the old man produced with a look of heartache. His complexion improved significantly. The wound still bled, but far less severely. The Luminar Patriarch hurried to save Corvin, feeding him pills and infusing spiritual energy, barely keeping the young man alive. Corvin was the Luminar family's genius. His death would be a heavy blow, not just now but 10 or 20 years hence. Without him, this generation of the Luminar family was finished. "Kaelin, you have the ambition of a wolf. How dare you use such a ruthless method?" The Luminar Patriarch roared, rising with a terrifying aura that pressed down on the youth. Kaelin felt his blood and chi surge under the pressure, then it vanished. The Draconis Patriarch had stepped in front of him, blocking the oppressive force. "Hey Sue, what are you doing? Sparring is normal." We all saw the fight. What did Kaelin do wrong? Your disciples aren't as skilled as others. Are you, as their elder, going to take action? The Luminar Patriarch's face darkened. He glanced at Corvin on the ground, then at the Draconis Patriarch and Kaelin, thinking of the Vela ancestor's strength and Kaelin's connection to Eldamir of the Aurelia Pavilion. He swallowed his anger. "Give me the spear." The Draconis Patriarch rolled up the blood-stained weapon and handed it over. Without hesitation, the Luminar Patriarch stored the Solari Hastael, swept up Corvin and led his family away. The young man needed immediate treatment or his life would be in danger. No one had expected such ruthlessness. Kalen showed no mercy, fighting with his life on the line. Was this a live-in son-in-law? If he was this capable, why become a son-in-law in the Vela family? Why not become my son-in-law instead? The arena fell quiet, but every heart churned. Mockery and disdain vanished, replaced by deep awe and fear. "Are you all right? Can you keep going?" The Draconis Patriarch asked, his surprise greater than anyone's. Flesh and blood around the spear wound had already knitted back, though burn marks remained caused by the spiritual power Corvin had poured into the weapon. Anyone else would have collapsed long ago. Yet Kalen still stood. He shook his head. "It's okay, I'm fine. If you can't continue, don't force yourself." The Draconis Patriarch's opinion had completely shifted. Once dismissed as a useless son-in-law, Kalen had impressed the family with his strength, and now showed the makings of a prodigy. The old man was no less excited than the crowd. He even thought Kalen's future growth would be a great joy for the Vela family. A flicker of self-mockery crossed him. He had valued Taurin's talent, arranging a marriage alliance to curry favor and change the family's fortunes. Instead, the Korath family had tricked him, delivering a half-dead, useless person. The entire Vela family had felt disgraced. Little did they know that this useless person might be the real genius. "It's okay, I can manage." Kalen nodded. He had consumed many spiritual herbs inside the astral chart of Evernite, fearing his body couldn't withstand the strain, but he was fine now. The Draconis Patriarch tossed him a storage bag. Kalen's expression flickered upon examining it, then settled. The old man smiled and left. Vela disciples bandaged Kalen's wounds. Once finished, he rose and walked toward Darian and Liriana. Liriana's gaze had changed. Mockery and contempt gone, replaced by shock. Darian, previously nonchalant and smiling, now wore a serious expression. Anyone would fear a madman. Ancestor Morongis returned to the arena center, surveyed the astonished crowd, and coughed lightly. Kalen wins. The next match begins in 1 hour. Even he was surprised by the youth's fighting style, a ruthlessness that shouldn't exist at that age. If this child grew up, he would be a formidable character. Ancestor Morongis had already made that judgment. During the hour's rest, Kalen sat cross-legged and recovered. Darian and Liriana, who had competed earlier, also rested with eyes closed. Kalen entered the astral chart of Evernite with his divine sense and devoured spiritual herbs and medicines. "I never expected an Ashen-rank magic weapon piercing to cause such severe injuries," he muttered. Even now, recalling it sent a chill through him. Had he not dodged that thrust, or had he not entered the astral chart beforehand to consume herbs, the outcome might have been very different. He might have fainted from exhaustion. He could now distinguish the basic effects and functions of each herb. The third star's shattering had left him ancient books recording everything clearly. Kalen now ate spiritual herbs like a main meal, stuffing his mouth full. Their value outside would be incalculable. A pity he couldn't take them out. An hour later he opened his eyes. The spear wound was no longer an issue, fully healed. His white robe was stained red with blood, but the bandages hid the details. Liriana and Darian also opened their eyes. 1 hour is up. Darian, Liriana, Kalen, come up on stage. As Ancestor Morongis's voice rang out, the three rose and walked forward. The Morongis, Valthorn and Vela families were all extremely tense. This was the final competition. Victory granted a 3-year supply of spirit stone mines. Even the patriarchs felt the weight. The Long and Hang patriarchs were in similar states. The situation was relatively easier for Ancestor Morongis. Kalen, Darian's current opponent, was already seriously injured, and Liriana posed little threat. Start. The victor's family would claim mining rights to the spirit stone vein for 3 years. The Velas dominated Iron Peak City, yet their coffers ran shallow beside the great houses of the surrounding cities. Even a vein yielding only the lowest grade spirit stones would shift the balance. Kalen's injuries had healed, though gravity still weighed his expression. Liriana kept her distance from Darian, her face solemn. Darian regarded them both with calm amusement, a sinister smile curving his lips. "Kalen, Liriana, I'll give you a chance to work together, otherwise this ends too quickly." Kalen didn't flicker. Liriana, however, flared. "You underestimate me. A suggestion only, one-on-one, you're no match." His smile thinned. "And you, with those injuries, how much strength remains?" As the last disciple the Luminor Cave Heaven Elders had taken behind closed doors, Darian carried his pride like armor. No need, I'll kill you myself. Liriana roared, unleashing her 4th-level Starfall transformation cultivation. A silver whip materialized in her grip, radiating pressure that marked it ashen rank. Kaelin blinked. The woman's judgment had fractured. Darian stood a full level above her. Yet she challenged him alone. In the stands, Valthorn faces went blank, hands covered eyes. The patriarch sighed, the sound heavy with resignation. Liriana murmured to Whipspire. The weapon uncoiled for dozens of meters, silver light blazing. A casual flick cracked the air wherever it struck. What treasure is that? The Valthorns don't own an ashen artifact. They don't, but that whip, terrifying power. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Even Kaelin reassessed. The destructive force matched a 5th-level cultivator's full strike. She's not entirely foolish, he muttered. Darian hadn't shown his full hand in the first round either. Kaelin stayed put. Let them exhaust each other. He could study Darian's strength and that strange ability that turned bodies sluggish. For now he was observer, not participant. Liriana struck. The whip screamed through air, pressure staggering. Darian's eyes narrowed. Faster than anticipated, but he sidestepped. The ground shattered. A crater 1 meter long and half a meter deep gouged into the mine floor. She didn't hesitate. Spiritual energy be damned, she swung again. Darian wove and dodged, movement growing ragged, yet he kept closing the gap. Liriana retreated, maintaining distance. His slowing technique terrified her. Proximity meant death. Dust clouds mushroomed. The fight was savage. Why not slow her directly? Range too short. Kaelin tracked the battle from the periphery, clear of stray lashes. She held distance because she feared the slow. He didn't use it because he couldn't, not at this range. Same calculation Kaelin had made. Darian needed to close. Liriana held the early advantage. But an ashen rank weapon drank deep. Her movements slowed, the whip's fury dimmed, a thunderous crack. She lashed out, and in that heartbeat a glint flashed in Darian's eyes. He exploded forward, speed hidden until now. She cried out, misjudging his pace. He'd been waiting 3 meters. Her body seized, sluggish as cold honey. The whip dragged in her grip. He smiled, sinister, and closed his fists for the kill. She shut her eyes. No trump cards left. It's over. The Murongis have won again. Darian's too strong. No wonder the elders chose him. How can anyone fight that? The crowd had already crowned him. Now, Kaelin moved. He'd masked his aura, held position, close enough to strike in a single burst. Lightning given form. 4th-level Starfall transformation unleashed, his right hand sealed, golden light blooming, Gloomvale Lockhaven. Darian jerked, crisis screaming down his spine. He realized the trap too late. Kaelin materialized half a meter behind him, the Lockhaven aimed at his throat. Stunned silence. Even Ancestor Morongis started. The boy had lain in wait, then struck from shadow. Insidious, throat-crushing Lockhaven, 3 inches from Darian's neck. Bone-chilling cold erupted from Darian's skin. Ice-encased Kaelin, movements freezing mid-strike. Darian seized the opening, slipping sideways. He'd seen this technique nearly kill Corvin Luminar. He wouldn't die to it. He'd underestimated Kaelin. The ice shattered. Kaelin's counterattack shattered it from within. Seals driving forward. Darian's eyes widened, disbelief, but he'd already twisted half his body clear. The Gloomvale Lockhaven caught his right arm. Darian's face contorted, veins bulging as the Gloomvale Lockhaven sealwood caught his right arm. Kaelin's speed had been slowed earlier, disrupting the seal's attack just enough for Darian to dodge a killing blow. But the limb hung useless at his side, blood dripping from fingers that refused to close. The exchange lasted a heartbeat. Shock rippled through the onlookers. Someone cried that Kaelin was impossibly cunning for a wounded man. Another that Darian was badly hurt. Even the Ancestor frowned, studying Kaelin, trying to reconcile the boy's injuries with his speed. Darian's carelessness had cost him. From the start he had dismissed Kaelin as a non-factor, convinced the boy's wounds would keep him from the fight. Now cold sweat beaded his forehead, his eyes bloodshot with pain and fury. He swallowed pills from a storage bag, the bleeding slowed. Kaelin exhaled, regret bitter on his tongue. He had meant to end his most dangerous rival with that strike, and had underestimated him. Why did you interrupt my fight with him? Liriana demanded from behind Kaelin. He stared, dumbfounded. Was she truly this oblivious? Without his intervention, Darian would have beaten her half to death before finishing her off. She shouted again, and this time the entire clearing heard. The patriarch covered his face. Most of the family did the same. I was dueling Darian. What do you mean by interfering? Liriana's anger was genuine, not performed. The rules aren't one-on-one, Kaelin said. Last one standing among the three wins. You're both my opponents. I'm simply dealing with them. He kept it simple. Liriana's expression shifted. Serious, then a nod of acceptance. Kaelin breathed easier. A moment ago she looked ready to attack him. Have you said enough? Darian's voice was cold, his earlier smile gone, replaced by something feral. He had been ambushed by a 4th-level Starfall cultivator and nearly crushed. I can't stand the sight of him, Liriana declared, and her silver whip cracked toward Darian. She clearly loathed Darian more than Kaelin. Kaelin sighed. The sneak attack had been his only chance. A second would be impossible. That's why it froze, he thought. A glint sharpened his eyes. What he feared most was being exploited without understanding Darian's abilities, but now he had a grasp. The sluggishness was freezing. In that instant his whole body felt encased in ice. He had shattered it by flooding the Draconis Elephant Overlord body and the 9 transformations of Starfall through his veins, the cost at least tenfold the norm. The technique hadn't frozen his body. It had targeted his soul directly. Meanwhile, Liriana and Darian clashed again. Darian's speed had dropped considerably. His right arm remained dead weight. Liriana's whip sang, but she was already panting. Wielding an Ashen-level weapon exacted a massive toll. Darian split his attention. A vicious gaze locked on Kaelin, waiting for another opening. Darian cursed and produced a palm-sized tortoise shell. An incantation swelled it into a barrier of light. Do you think I'll be scared of a turtle shell? Liriana sneered. But strike after strike produced only crisp crackling against the screen, no sign of breaking. You forced me to use this against a woman, Darian spat, glancing at Kaelin. I didn't want to. My plan was to win without it. You're just a woman, and he's half crippled from the Solari Hastael. Neither of you matches me. I felt it beneath my dignity as a disciple of Luminor Cave Heaven to use a magic weapon on you. But I don't care about dignity anymore, especially not where he's concerned. I never expected Kaelin to break my technique in an instant. Kaelin frowned. The shell was harder than he'd anticipated. Liriana lashed out again and again to no effect. Something's not right, Kaelin murmured. Each impact made Darian's aura fluctuate. An idea formed. He flashed to Liriana's side. I'll attack with you. Before she could answer. He was before the barrier, iron fist driving into the light screen. Didn't you say you were cooperating? Liriana frowned, but she didn't refuse, her whip joining the assault. They can't break it, Darian said calmly. This Vespera turtle shell is a high-grade ashen weapon forged from a Yuan Hulis realm Vespera turtle. There's no breaking it. After Profound Core comes Primordra Soulforge, where one cultivates a Primordra spirit as long as the spirit endures. Death cannot claim you even if the body is destroyed. In all Iron Peak City's history, there has never been a Yuan Hulis expert. Gasps rose from the crowd. That's not necessarily true, Kaelin scoffed. A sharp crack split the air. A hairline fracture spiderwebbed across the tortoise-shell barrier. Darian frowned, and the fractures spiderwebbing across the tortoise-shell light screen knitted themselves shut. The barrier sealing smooth as glass once more. Really, Kaelin smiled. Activating that shell costs you a great deal of spiritual power, doesn't it? So what? Liriana had seen the crack. What happened? Although the shell is a high-grade Ashen-level magic weapon, the spiritual energy required to activate it is no small thing. Every blow that strikes the screen draws on Darian's own reserves to maintain the operation. Kaelin gave the explanation in passing, and Liriana nodded, understanding. It was common knowledge. The higher a magic weapon's grade, the steeper its consumption. But so what? Darian said calmly. With your current strength, you're incapable of inflicting serious damage on the barrier. My consumption will remain minimal. He was right. A Tengara realm master attacking casually would probably shatter him, but his opponents were merely 2 cultivators at the 4th level of Starfall transformation. What could they do, even if he let them strike freely? So my guess was correct. Kaelin's aura surged, and he slammed his fists hard against the barrier. Liriana grasped the situation, took a deep breath, and continued lashing the screen with her long whip. Darian sneered. Go ahead and fight. Let's see how long you can keep this up. In truth, he had been forced into this. He was not skilled at direct combat, his freezing technique was useless against Kalen, and his right arm hung temporarily immobile from injury. Faced with the two of them working together, he had no better solution for the moment. Once my right arm recovers, it will be the day you two die. Is that so then? Let's see who outlasts whom. Kalen sneered, launching a fierce assault without regard for his own spiritual expenditure. Each strike carried power no weaker than Liriana's silver whip. If this continues, Kalen and Liriana are bound to lose. Many spectators sighed in dismay. Everyone shared the thought. Since Darian only expended spiritual power to activate and maintain the barrier, his consumption was naturally very small. However, a quarter of an hour passed. Liriana was already panting heavily, while Kalen still attacked with all his might. Half an hour later she was exhausted, devoid of strength, yet he continued. An hour passed and Kalen was still striking at full force. Darian's face had turned a sickly green. Kalen had actually fought at full power for an hour. Was he a monster? His spiritual power not only failed to recover but depleted further. Even after consuming numerous restoration pills, it was to no avail. Liriana was in the same boat. She took many pills as well, but the effects were negligible. After all, the pills they had were only first grade, the lowest level, so the results were naturally poor. Is Kalen a monster? He's been attacking with all his might for an hour. A spectator shouted. Am I dreaming? It's been an hour, another cried. A hallucination. This must all be a hallucination, a third exclaimed. The crowd was astonished. Even the various family elders couldn't fathom where Kalen's stamina came from. What they didn't know was that Darian's defensive method, isolating himself behind the barrier, had actually helped Kalen. During this time his soul had returned to the astral chart of Evernight repeatedly, and he had consumed large amounts of spiritual medicine to restore his power. These herbs were extremely precious, even unrefined into pills. Their effects far surpassed first-grade remedies. Damn it! Darian cursed, eyes bloodshot. The barrier was much thinner than at the start and had shattered several times already. He had run out of pills and couldn't hold on much longer. Smash it! Kalen roared, the earth trembling as a deafening crash rang out between his fist and the light screen. Ancestor Morungis watched from the side with a grim expression. He hadn't expected his descendant to be forced to this extent. Darian took a deep breath and deactivated the barrier. Continuing to waste time would do him no good. Did it work? Liriana asked, looking at Kalen. She was also incredibly surprised, never expecting him to be so long-lasting. He let out a ragged breath, panting heavily, attacking with all his might while recovering via spiritual medicine. It would be a lie to say he wasn't exhausted. If not for the powerful Draconis Elephant Overlord body Technomar and the 9 transformations of Starfall transformation, strengthening his physical body, he probably would have fallen apart long ago. Similarly, Darian on the other side was in bad shape, but fortunately he could now move his right arm. Come on, let me see what you're made of. Darian breathed a sigh of relief, his figure vanishing as he rushed forward. His first target, Liriana. She was shocked. She didn't even have the strength to swing her whip anymore. In the blink of an eye he was upon them, his speed scarcely diminished. Damn it, Kalen cursed. Darian only consumed spiritual energy while he and Liriana burned both spiritual energy and physical strength. In particular, his own physical strength had long since been exhausted, so he couldn't rely on spiritual energy alone before reaching the Tengara realm. One was still mortal. A thunderous crash rang out. Liriana was sent flying backward. She tried to fight back, but under Darian's freezing technique, which could slow and immobilize enemies, she had no power to resist. By the time Kalen arrived, it was too late. Liriana had fainted and was eliminated. Darian turned to Kalen. Now it's just you and me. Kalen sighed. His reason for wanting to save Liriana had been simple. Darian's abilities were strange, and his cultivation was higher. Having another teammate would have been advantageous. Looks like the next challenge is a head-on showdown between us. Kalen exhaled, and a flash of anger crossed Darian's eyes. He wanted to avenge the earlier sneak attack. Darian's aura shifted, his 5th-level Starfall transformation realm cultivation erupting as he charged. Kalen's expression turned solemn as he unleashed his own 4th-level cultivation, and the two clashed. Although Kalen's cultivation was 1 level lower, the high grade of his technique was enough to bridge the gap. They fought for dozens of rounds in the blink of an eye, neither gaining the upper hand. Kalen threw a punch at Darian's chest, while Darian struck at Kalen's neck with a palm. However, Kaelin's figure suddenly stopped, frozen in ice. The palm struck his neck directly, tilting his body, and a series of cracking sounds rang out from his cervical bones. But in the blink of an eye, Kaelin shattered the ice sealing him, and drove his fist into Darien's chest. The latter coughed up blood and staggered back several steps. The battle had stretched into a second day, defying every expectation. No one had imagined the Veiler's son-in-law capable of such ferocity. Darien wiped blood from his mouth, eyes gone glacial. Across the arena, Kaelin swayed on shattered legs, his neck a lattice of broken bone held together only by the spiritual medicine burning through his veins. Every breath sent white fire through his nervous system. It ends now. Darien drew a purple longsword from his robes, the Purpura Nethralis Gladius, a mid-grade ashen weapon. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A top-grade ashen tortoise shell, now this. The Murongi's heir wore more artifacts than most Tengara realm cultivators owned. Kaelin exhaled, a sound like cracking ice. Close. Too close. Darien frowned, uncomprehending, until Kaelin produced his own blade from a storage bag. The three-tasseled ghost head blade. Mid-grade ashen. The Veiler clan's treasured heirloom. Branol, the Murongus ancestor, leaned forward. That old fox, I never thought he'd give it to the boy. He glanced across the platform at the Veiler patriarch, who wore a smile sharp as a blade. Both young men stood on the edge of collapse, spiritual reservoirs nearly dry, yet both still held weapons that could shatter mountains. They collided with a roar that shook the viewing stands. Sparks showered each impact. The ring of steel, so pure it hurt teeth. Blood slicked their robes, then their skin, until both were painted crimson. A quarter-hour passed. Darien's alarm deepened. How could the boy still stand? His will was iron, but Kaelin's was bedrock. Wounded worse, cultivation lower, yet he refused to break. Kill, the word rose in both minds unspoken. Darien's consciousness frayed. He poured everything, spiritual power, will, the last dregs of his life, into a single descending strike aimed at Kaelin's skull. Kaelin's saber answered, humming in his grip. He raised it mirror-perfect, targeting Darien's head. 2 death blows, no defense. At Starfall transformation, a severed head meant true death. No medicine could reverse it. The crowd held its collective breath. Darien saw the madness in Kaelin's eyes. He'll trade his life for mine. The blade screamed toward flesh, and Darien flinched. At the final half-inch, survival instinct overrode pride. He was a Murongis genius, a closed-door disciple of Luminor Cave Heaven. His future stretched bright and long. He sheathed his sword and twisted aside. Kaelin's saber did not stop. It bit deep from collarbone to ankle, a furrow exposing bone. Only Darien's last-moment dodge prevented bisection, blood fountained. The arena gasped. Branna materialized beside his heir, catching him before he hit the ground. He emptied a jade bottle of healing pills down Darien's throat, then another and another, every vial in his storage bag. The verdict was written in that intervention. The Veiler patriarch appeared at Kaelin's side, pressing pills into slack fingers. His fingers froze on Kaelin's wrist. Beneath the fever heat of battle, the boy's skin was cold, corpse cold. Only the faint rise of his chest and the white-knuckled grip on his saber proved he still lived. Kaelin swallowed the medicine, levered himself upright on the ghost head blade. He stood silent, swaying, a statue carved from exhaustion and something harder than steel. Branna's voice rolled across the silence, rough with reluctant respect. Kaelin wins. The Veiler clan erupted. Cheers strangled in their throats as Kaelin's eyes rolled back. His knees buckled. The saber clattered from nerveless fingers. He fell into the dark, whole at last. The single word won the last thing his consciousness caught. Kaelin collapsed backward, unconscious before he hit the ground. The Veiler patriarch caught him, and the room fell into a silence heavier than any cheer. Everyone understood then that he had been moving on will alone, refusing to fall until the match was decided. His injuries might have been worse than Darien's, but that will had carried him to victory. He slept for 3 days and 3 nights. When he finally opened his eyes, he lay in a clean bed, a white robe replacing his blood-stained clothes. His hand flew to his chest. The astral chart of Evernite still rested there, undisturbed. "You're awake?" Elara stood at his bedside, her veil in place but her eyes red-rimmed, voice thick with tears she had not bothered to hide. 3 days already? He tried to rise but his body protested sharply, a groan escaping him. "Don't move. You'll need a month of bed rest with injuries like that. She eased him up gently, pillows propped behind his back. He smiled wryly, taking in the bandages wrapping him like a shroud. The fight with Darien had been brutal. If his opponent hadn't faltered at the end, Kalen would be cold in the ground. Did we get the Spirit Stone mine? Yes. You're number 1. The mine belongs to the Veilers for 3 years. Kalen, thank you. The words came earnestly. He blinked. Why are you thanking me? For securing the mine, the monthly allowance for every family member has multiplied, and the clan has a real chance at rapid development. He said nothing, only smiled. Truthfully, he hadn't fought for the mine. He had fought to sharpen himself. Cultivation was a long road, but life and death struggles compressed it. At the 4th level of Starfall transformation, even with his talent and the chart's cleansing of his meridians, the 5th level would have taken 3 to 6 months. Now he felt the threshold trembling. Once healed, he could break through. Elara filled him in on the household. The useless cast-off son-in-law had defeated Thorn, the Veiler's own prodigy, and won a Spirit Stone mine. The Coriths had become a laughingstock in Iron Peak City, ridiculed for their blindness. Kalen only smiled. Seraphina arrived soon after. She had visited daily while he slept, hungry for details of the fight. But her mouth never stopped moving, and the headache she induced finally drove him to feign exhaustion and send her away. Elara didn't linger either. She withdrew to the next room, telling him to call if he needed anything. Alone, he closed his eyes and sent his divine sense into the astral chart. His physical injuries were no barrier here. He breathed out, located the healing elixirs he had catalogued, and began consuming them. The Veiler pills were fine, but these were in another league. Garrick visited next. He treated Kalen like a true son now, all satisfaction and warm concern, then left. The Patriarch did not come. His seclusion was too deep for anything but major events. But Kalen sensed an aura brush the courtyard shortly after Garrick departed, present for a heartbeat, then gone. 3 days later, he could move freely. 3 more, and his wounds had all but closed. The household was stunned. He prepared to enter seclusion and consolidate the breakthrough he felt coming. Then the uninvited arrived. At the Veiler gate stood Roderick, Seraphine, the Corith steward, a contingent of direct descendants, and a young man in misty immortal palace robes, standing apart with the easy arrogance of someone who knew the world bent for him. "Tell Garrick to come out and greet him. This is a disciple of the misty immortal palace." The steward pounded on the door, voice carrying. The Veiler's servants bristled, then paled at the name. Even a dog in that palace was worshipped by ordinary folk. In the main hall, Garrick started at the report and hurried out with the elders. The Corith party waited. The palace disciple glanced at Garrick with flat indifference. "I'm here on Senior Brother Torin's orders to take Kalen. Bring him immediately." "Oh," Garrick's smile tightened. "What brings you here, son-in-law?" A Corith elder barked for silence, sneering that palace disciples had come to collect someone and the Veilers had no business asking questions. Roderick cursed from the sidelines, swelling with new confidence. Torin's rise in the misty immortal palace had given him a mountain to stand on. "That's right. Hand over that good-for-nothing so we can be on our way," Seraphine added, lip curled. Garrick's face darkened. The elders behind him shifted, hands moving subtly to sword hilts. "Bring that trash out now. Do I have to say it twice?" The disciples of the misty immortal palace radiated such naked aggression that Garrick's face drained to ash. The head of Iron Peak City's greatest clan was being publicly reprimanded by a young man. The humiliation would follow him through every hall and courtyard once word spread. "Kalen is a member of my Valor family," Garrick said, his voice cold iron. "You have no right to come here and demand we hand him over." Roderick laughed, a harsh bark. "Garrick, do you have a death wish? You dare block the misty immortal palace? Do you want your entire clan wiped out?" Seraphine's voice dripped venom. "My good-for-nothing son, is he really worth all this pampering? Now that we're here to take him, you're suddenly reluctant to part with him." The 2 elders flanking Garrick stepped forward, faces flushed. "When did it become your place to demand people from the Veilers? Kalen is already a son-in-law. He belongs to us. Your Corith family's demands mean nothing." "Old man, since when do you speak?" Roderick cursed. The second elder's face purpled. He opened his mouth to retort. A wave of Gavrick's hands silenced them. The outer disciple's voice cut deep. "I come on Senior Brother Torin's orders to take Kalen. If you stop me, you disrespect Torin himself." Grim silence settled over the Valar members. In the past, they would have handed Kaelin over without a thought, perhaps even celebrated his departure. But now he was the clan's hero, the man who had risked everything to secure the Spirit Stone mine. To surrender him would be heartless betrayal. Garrick's jaw tightened. Kaelin is the son-in-law of the Valar family. He has nothing to do with the Coriths, and even if you are from the misty immortal palace, why should we hand him over? He did not yield, not even before such overwhelming force. Fine, fine, fine. Gavric sneered. I'll go in now and take him. I'll break his arms and legs and drag him out. Let's see who dares stop me. If your clan moves, I'll report to the palace and you're finished. He moved the instant the words left his mouth. Cultivation flaring at the 6th level of Starfall transformation. Garrick stood at great perfection of the same realm. The elders behind him hovered at 6th and 7th. Yet none dared raise a hand against the approaching disciples. An outer disciple acting beyond the palace gates carried the palace's full authority. The steward hurried forward, obsequious. Lord Gavric, I'll lead the way. The disciples followed him into the Draconis mansion. Roderick and Seraphine glanced at Garrick, snorted, and swaggered after. Garrick's fists clenched until veins stood white on his forehead, his whole frame trembling with suppressed rage. The elders beside him were little better. Patriarch, the second elder asked, voice tight, are we really going to abandon Kaelin? Garrick's face remained storm-dark. He considered, then spoke. Second elder, go to the Aurelia Pavilion and find Elder Orin. He and Kaelin are close. Tell him what's happening. Third elder, go to the City Lord's mansion and summon the City Lord. They nodded and vanished, rushing for reinforcements. Garrick exhaled a long, controlled breath. Let's go. Whatever happens, we hold them off until Orin and the City Lord arrive. In the villa's main hall, Kaelin sat opposite Elara and Seraphina. The girl had been visiting daily of late. Brother-in-law, Seraphina asked, chin propped on her hand, is Liriana pretty? Who's prettier, her or me? Kaelin pressed a hand to his temple. The questions never ended. A servant burst through the outer door, panic in every breath. Third master, something terrible people from the misty immortal palace have arrived. Kaelin frowned. The women beside him stiffened, understanding dawning. Before the servant could finish, a familiar voice boomed from the courtyard. You little bastard, your father's here. Aren't you coming out to greet me? Veins bulged along Kaelin's jaw. Roderick moments later, the steward ushered them in. Gavric and the palace disciples, Roderick, Seraphine, a clutch of Corith relatives and servants. Kaelin surveyed them, father, mother, the toadying steward, cousins, retainers, his expression utterly black. You little beast, Seraphine snapped, eyes sharp despite her preserved beauty. Now that your mother's here, why don't you come over and pay your respects? Who do you think you are, you old hag, to insult my brother-in-law? Seraphine Valar stepped from behind Kaelin, finger jabbing at Seraphine. You little brat. What business is it of yours if I scold my son? How dare you insult your mother? I'll tear your mouth apart. Seraphine lunged, but Roderick caught her wrist. Minor matters. Taking Kaelin is what matters. She subsided, jaw tight. For Taurin's sake she would endure. Gavric said nothing. He simply studied Kaelin, Taurin's older brother, the trash they'd spoken of. Roderick stepped forward, command in every syllable. Kaelin, go with this disciple. Your brother wants to see you. Before Kaelin could answer, Seraphina Valar snapped. Why should he go with you? Elara pulled her back, worried but aware of the impropriety. These were Kaelin's parents, after all. Kaelin didn't rush to respond. Roderick raised a brow. You'd better come quietly, or we'll make you. Are you talking to me? Kaelin looked at his father with the flat gaze one reserves for idiots. He couldn't fathom the man's logic. Arrive, speak a few words, expect obedience. Gavric spoke. I'm Gavric. I'm here on Senior Brother Taurin's orders. If you don't obey, he instructed that your legs can be broken before taking you back. That's right, Seraphine added, cold. The Valars have already agreed to let us take you. You'd better leave obediently. Trash, and you'll suffer less. Kaelin frowned. Heavy footsteps thundered from the courtyard. Kaelin is a member of my Valar family. You are not qualified to take him away. Garrick arrived at the villa with a retinue of Valar elders and guests. Seraphina ran to meet them, aggrieved and ready to complain, calling out to her father. Roderick whirled, his glare fierce. You, surnamed Valar, do you want to die? This is my Valar family's place. You, surnamed Corith, had better watch your words. Garrick's face went cold. My Valar family dares not touch disciples of the misty immortal palace, but I dare to kill you, Roderick. Roderick fell silent at once. Seraphine, standing beside him, swallowed whatever she had meant to say. Garrick ignored his daughter and strode to Kaelin's side, exhaling in relief when he saw the boy unharmed. Opposite them, Gavrick, a disciple of the misty immortal palace, fixed Garrick with a deep stare. Is your Valar family going against the misty immortal palace? Do you know what happens to those who oppose it? Garrick's expression grimaced, but he forced the words out. My Valar family would never dare oppose the misty immortal palace, but Kaelin is a member of my Valar family, and we will protect him. I have said it before, Kaelin is the person senior brother Thorin wants, and he must be taken away. Gavrick spoke coldly, a long sword materializing in his hand. Garrick's face darkened. If he truly attacked a misty immortal palace disciple and word reached the palace, the Valar family would likely be wiped from the Marshallon Imperium prefecture overnight. At that moment, a terrifying pressure descended from mid-air, the kind only a Tengara realm expert could emit. The Valar patriarch, Branor, appeared above them, looking down with a grim expression. Garrick had already sent word. The Seraphis realm, Gavrick frowned. His cultivation sat at the 6th level of the Starfall transformation realm, no match for a Tengara expert. Judging by the aura, this one was formidable even among them. Yet Gavrick showed no fear. His status as a misty immortal palace disciple was his guarantee. Old man, you want to make a move? Gavrick gripped his long sword and glanced up at Branor, offering no courtesy. Young man, don't be so arrogant. Branor seethed. A powerful Tengara expert, never before so humiliated. You had better think it over. I am from the misty immortal palace. What will be the consequences if you attack me? Gavrick said deeply. Roderick and his wife exhaled in relief. Most of the Korith family felt the same. When Branor unleashed his aura, they had nearly wet themselves in fear. Branor's face flushed red, his eyes blazing as if to devour someone, yet, thinking of his family, he restrained himself and held back. How dare a mere outer disciple of the misty immortal palace cause trouble here? A faint voice drifted from afar, though no speaker could be seen. Who's talking? Playing tricks? Gavrick sneered, but a murderous aura suddenly enveloped him. He forced himself to remain calm. You think I'm just playing tricks? A figure moved like lightning, appearing above the courtyard in a blink, hovering near Branor. Who are you? Gavrick asked. The aura radiating from the newcomer was terrifying. The man chuckled. My name is Valerius, but people like to call me Valerius. Roderick recognized the name immediately and whispered in Gavrick's ear. He is the Borealis Pavilion Master of the Aurelia Pavilion, Gavrick exclaimed in shock. Although the misty immortal palace's power surpassed the Aurelia Pavilions, he, an outer disciple, was not worthy of comparison with one of the 4 Aurelia Pavilion Masters. What, you know who I am? Valerius smiled, though the smile was cold. Gavrick took a deep breath, clasped his hands and said, Junior Gavrick, outer disciple of the misty immortal palace, pays respects to Elder Valerius. I did not know it was you, please forgive me. The scene stunned everyone, including Branor. They knew the Aurelia Pavilion was powerful and held countless treasures, but never expected such influence that even misty immortal palace disciples had to bow. Even Kaelin was taken aback. He had thought he overestimated the Aurelia Pavilion's influence. It seemed he had underestimated it. Valerius sneered. Now that I'm here, why don't you get lost? Gavrick lowered his head, forced to speak under pressure. Elder Valerius, I came on the orders of senior brother Thorin to take Kaelin to see him. Valerius frowned. You're trying to intimidate me with a disciple's title? I think you've gone mad. This junior would certainly not dare. Gavrick was bitter. He had thought it an easy job, but ended up offending the Borealis Pavilion Master of the Aurelia Pavilion. Yet, if they couldn't bring Kaelin back, how would they explain it to Thorin? He lowered his head, pondered, then said, But I would like to ask your permission, Senior. I want a life-or-death battle with Kaelin. We'll sign a life-or-death agreement. If I win, I take Kaelin away. If I lose, he may do whatever he wants with me. Valerius was taken aback, about to refuse. When Kaelin spoke in a deep voice, I agree. Everyone froze, all eyes turning to Kaelin, including Valerius. Kaelin, your injuries haven't healed yet, don't be rash, Garrick hurriedly advised. Branor chimed in. That's right, his cultivation is at the 6th level of the Starfall transformation realm, 2 minor realms above yours, and you're injured. Even Valerius advised, you don't need to pay attention to a mere outer disciple of the misty immortal palace. At that moment, another gust of wind surged in midair. A figure appeared, first clasping hands to Valerius, then standing beside Branner. The newcomer was a tall, imposing middle-aged man, Haldor, the city lord of Iron Peak City. "No, I will accept the challenge." Kalen stepped forward and bowed to the three in mid-air. They had come for him, and he would remember this kindness. Though he didn't recognize the city lord who arrived last, he could roughly guess his identity. Gavrick's face lit up with joy. This way he could openly beat Kalen half to death and take him back to report to Torin. He was willing to risk his life to curry favor. Roderick, Seraphine, and the rest of the Korath family breathed a sigh of relief. From the moment Branner appeared to the moment Valerius arrived, their hearts had pounded so hard they dared not breathe. Gavrick declared that 3 days from now, at the City Lord's Mansion arena, they would fight to the death. No one could fathom why Kalen would accept a death match. Gavrick, a disciple of the misty immortal palace, wielded extraordinary techniques and stood 2 minor realms above him. The disadvantage was crushing, yet Kalen remained immovable. No persuasion could sway him. With the matter settled, the crowd dispersed. After seeing off Eldamir and City Lord Haldor, Kalen retreated straight to the secretum room for secluded cultivation. Meanwhile, Gavrick departed with Roderick and Seraphine. However arrogant he might be at the Valar estate, he still dared not slight Torin's parents. Days blurred inside the secret chamber. Seated cross-legged, motionless, Kalen slipped into the astral chart of Evernight, where his divine sense bathed in abundant spiritual energy. He first consumed vast quantities of spiritual medicine and herbs to mend his injuries, then turned to spirit stones for cultivation. The chart's isolated space was thin with ambient energy theoretically slowing cultivation compared to the outside world. Yet he absorbed the stones at an astonishing rate, a testament to his high-grade technique. The 9 transformations of Starfall transformation was an Earth-rank art, far surpassing any profound rank method. A shout tore from his throat as cultivation power surged, trembling the space within the chart. Veins bulged across his face as he poured everything into the breakthrough. He had spent the past days reaching the peak of the 4th level of the Starfall transformation realm. Now, he struck for the 5th. A low rumble built into a thunderous bang, and terrifying pressure erupted, simultaneously from his divine sense within the chart and his physical body without. The commotion far exceeded his previous breakthrough, drawing the attention of Valar family members throughout the estate. "Coming from Third Master's side, isn't it?" a servant whispered to the others. Patriarch Garrick and the elders felt it too, but after brief discussion none disturbed him. They let him cultivate in peace. When Kalen finally opened his eyes, he clenched his fist and felt the surge of strength far beyond the 4th level. Finally, the 5th level of the Starfall transformation realm. A smile curved his lips inside the chart. If I fought Darian again, defeating him would be effortless. He was confident he could crush Darian completely. Rising, he summoned a massive star from the starry expanse before him. Unleashing his full power at the early 5th level, he sent concentric rings of wind surging outward. His right hand formed a seal. The Gloomvale Lockhaven blazed with golden light. He leaped, driving the seal toward the 4th star. Another earth-shattering roar louder than the breakthrough itself. Yet when the seal struck, the star only suffered surface shattering, far from destruction. Kalen landed, panting heavily, spiritual energy nearly spent. The fractured star slowly knitted itself whole. As expected, at least the 6th level is required. He hadn't truly intended to shatter it, only to test his strength and verify his guess at the difficulty progression. A day and night passed as he remained in the chart consolidating his cultivation, consuming numerous nourishing elixirs. Back in the secret room, he opened his eyes. His gaze held uncommon depth, his aura more potent than before. He frowned at the wreckage, furniture and chairs splintered beyond recognition. "My breakthrough caused this?" He scratched his head, rose and opened the door. Elara waited there. Seeing him emerge unharmed, she exhaled a long breath. "Kalen, you." She had been deeply worried by the previous day's noise, simply waiting at the door for him to exit seclusion. "I'm fine. Let's go to the City Lord's mansion." The arena outside the City Lord's mansion in Iron Peak City was already packed. Word that the Valar family's son-in-law would face an outer disciple of the misty immortal palace had spread far and wide. The entire city clamored to witness this once-in-a-century clash. 19 years good for nothing, Kalen had married into the Valars and defeated their genius, Thorn. Gavrik, by contrast, carried higher status, a misty immortal palace disciple at the 6th level of Starfall transformation. By every measure, Gavrik held the advantage. The Korath family had arrived before dawn. For 3 days, Gavrik had enjoyed fine food and lodging at their estate. Roderick had even brought several beautiful women from brothels to entertain him, which delighted Gavrik no end. Such mundane pleasures simply didn't exist, nor were they permitted, in the strictly controlled misty immortal palace. Gavrik, it's up to you now. Just leave that little beast alive, then take him back to Torin, Roderick sneered. Exactly. What skills does that trash have? He won't even bow to me. Break his legs later. I want to see him kneeling on the stage, kowtowing and begging forgiveness, Seraphine added, hatred twisting her face. Gavrik nodded. Uncle, Aunt, don't worry. 3 days ago, Kalen was only at the 4th level. He's not worth mentioning. I'll teach him a lesson and break every bone in his body so he'll regret not leaving with me obediently back then. The couple smiled with satisfaction. A shout announced his arrival. Kalen strode toward the arena, flanked by Vela family members. Garrick walked beside him, with Alara and Seraphina Vela following, then a train of clan elders and Thorn. The patriarch himself did not appear. He stood inside the mansion with City Lord Haldor. Do you think we can win this match? Haldor asked. I have no idea. The patriarch paused, then chuckled. However, it seems Kalen has never lost. Gavrik burst into laughter the moment Kalen appeared. Trash! You finally arrived! He vaulted onto the arena, eyes flashing with fierce light. Kid, it's not too late to admit defeat. Below the stage, Kalen regarded him with the calm pity one reserves for an idiot. Those are actually the words I wanted to say to you. He finished speaking and jumped onto the stage, planting himself opposite Gavrik. The two men locked eyes. Gavrik grinned with malicious anticipation, studying Kalen as if he were a lamb led to slaughter. Kalen returned the gaze with the flat curiosity of someone watching an idiot, wondering where such confidence originated. Am I really that weak? In a life-or-death battle, both parties first sign a waiver, Haldor announced, ascending into the air. He tossed a jade slip to each combatant. Imprint your divine consciousness. The contract takes effect immediately. Previously, Kalen and Thorn had fought without such a formality. This time was different. Gavrik was a disciple of the misty immortal palace. Killing him would invite the sect's retribution. Kalen pressed the slip to his forehead. The terms were simple: agreement to a death match with Gavrik. He imprinted a thread of his divine sense. The jade pulsed faint blue. Gavrik had already finished by the time Kalen lowered his hand. He flung the slip back to Haldor, fixing Kalen with a taunting stare. Does he truly want to die that badly? Kalen muttered, returning his own slip. Haldor verified both, gave Kalen a long, unreadable look, and vanished. Regret is useless now, trash, Gavrik said, his face twisting into a ferocious smile. A long sword materialized in his grip, radiating dazzling light, an ashen rank magic weapon. But don't worry, I won't kill you. I'll shatter every bone, turn you into a cripple, and drag you back like mud to senior brother Torin. Gasps rippled through the crowd, Iron Peak locals who had never seen an ashen rank weapon in the flesh. As expected of the misty immortal palace, even a disciple wields ashen steel. How many such weapons exist in our city? Kalen is in danger. I have to raise my bet on him. Kalen sneered. Don't worry, I won't break your ribs. I'll kill you. He drew the 3-tasseled ghost head blade. Its aura matched the longsword, rank for rank. After the Spirit Stone mine closed, the Vela patriarch had reclaimed the blade. Upon arrival, he had Garrick hand it to Kalen, a quiet declaration of the family's stance. Gavrik faltered, eyes sweeping the weapon from tip to hilt. You actually possess an Ashen-grade weapon. I underestimated you. Kalen said nothing, holding that same pitying gaze. The crowd erupted again. 2 Ashen-rank weapons. Last time Kalen and Thorn had fought unarmed, yet the battle had been thrilling. What would happen now? You talk too much nonsense, Kalen roared, raising the ghost head saber overhead, pouring spiritual power into the steel and swinging. Terrifying pressure erupted, forming a hurricane of blade energy that screamed toward Gavrik. The disciple froze. He hadn't expected a sudden opening move, nor the power behind it. This was no ordinary cultivator. Still, a misty immortal palace disciple did not panic. He raised his longsword horizontally, dispersing the incoming energy. But as he committed to the block, Kalen vanished, reappearing above Gavrik's head in a blink. The saber descended with several times the force of the prior strike. Gavrik cried out. He hadn't anticipated such speed, such ruthlessness. Blade energy to distract, wait for the sword to commit, then dodge and strike from above, forced to raise his weapon against the descending blow, otherwise it would cleave him in two. He would have to absorb the blade energy head-on. Damn it. Against an ordinary cultivator, the tactic would decide the match. Death was certain for anyone below the Tengara realm, whether by saber or shredding energy. But Gavrik carried treasures. His right hand caught the aerial strike while his left slapped his storage bag, producing a silver talisman. A hand seal ignited it. He hurled it at the oncoming wave. Light blossomed into a shield that swallowed the attack. His longsword met the ghost-head saber, but the transmitted force numbed his wrist. Without hesitation, Kalen raised his weapon again and began slashing relentlessly. Saber cultivators cultivated power. Every strike had to carry the strength to cleave the sky and overwhelm the earth to unleash the weapon's full potential. The style suited Kalen perfectly. Damn it! Damn it! Gavrik cursed under his breath, frantically waving his longsword to block. His right wrist throbbed. Several times the sword nearly flew from his grip. He never dreamed the useless Kalen would be this strong. Is this the trash Torin spoke of? Roderick and Seraphine sent me to beat the other half to death, leaving him barely alive? Are you kidding me? The spectators were dumbfounded. Kalen's opening sequence had dazzled them. My God, Kalen is too strong. He's actually dominating a misty immortal palace disciple. Did you see that? He unleashed blade energy, then moved faster than the energy itself. I didn't even catch his movements. Who called Kalen trash first? The Vela section buzzed with excitement. Garrick and the elders could barely restrain their cheers. In contrast, the Korath family's area was deathly silent. Roderick clenched his fists, face pale with disbelief. Impossible! Impossible! He's clearly trash! Clearly trash! He couldn't understand why Kalen was so strong. Gavrik stood at the 6th level of Starfall transformation, yet Kalen suppressed him. Seraphine, beside Roderick, fared no better. Damn it. How can this little beast be so strong? On the stage, Gavrik was mentally cursing Torin, Roderick, and Seraphine's ancestors 800 times over. Is this what you call trash? He now seriously suspected Torin had sent him to his death. Damn it. Gavrik lost count of his curses. If this continued, he would die. A fierce glint flashed in his eyes. He slapped his storage bag, and a handful of Fulgura talismans appeared. After forming a hand seal, he hurled them at Kalen. It took more than 10 detonating talismans to force a retreat. Taking advantage of the opening, Gavrik stumbled back, chest heaving. His right hand had gone numb, wrist red and swollen. Had he not been a disciple of the misty immortal palace, with its arsenal of self-preservation, he might already be dead at Kalen's hands. The thought turned his eyes bloodshot. The talismans he had burned to block Kalen's sword energy, the dozen Fulgura talismans he had just unleashed, each exacted a heavy toll. But compared to his life, such costs were insignificant. Now only one thing mattered: how to defeat his opponent. Given another chance, he would have left obediently 3 days ago. Might even have abandoned Torin altogether. One only had one life, after all. The detonation of over a dozen Fulgura talismans had forced Kalen to retreat temporarily, but he emerged unscathed. Given his current physical resilience, even enduring more than 10 such talismans would not seriously injure him. Seeing this, Gavrik's eyes grew even more ruthless as he prepared to charge again. He slapped his storage bag, producing a jade bottle. With a pained expression, he poured out a crimson pill and swallowed it in one gulp. The effect was immediate. His eyes turned blood red, veins bulging across his face, his aura surging dramatically. Kalen frowned, uncertain what was happening, but having already drawn his saber and closed the distance, retreat was not an option. Gavrik roared curses, declaring his opponent deserved death, his longsword humming as his cultivation climbed toward the 7th level of Starfall transformation and kept rising. The onlookers were startled. Whispers erupted. What had the misty immortal palace disciple consumed? It seemed even stronger than the medicine Thorn had taken previously. These disciples were terrifying. The Vela family members looked grim. Their elders exchanged bewildered glances, none recognizing the pill. The Korath family reacted differently. Roderick shouted for Gavrik to spare the young beast's life, fearing an impulsive killing blow. The words only enraged Gavrik further. He screamed for the old man to get lost. If not for the Korith family, he would not be in this state. The blood-burning Pilvora forcibly consumed essence and blood to enhance combat power, several times more potent than the Purpura Fire Pilvora, with correspondingly severe side effects. Prolonged use risked death. At minimum, cultivation would stagnate for life. The revelation stunned Roderick into red-faced silence. Inside the City Lord's mansion, both Branner and Haldor recognized the pill. Their expressions darkened, and neither spoke. High above the arena, concealed in the void, Valerius's eyes narrowed slightly. He had arrived long ago and witnessed the entire battle. Kaelin's progress amazed him, another breakthrough in just 3 days. But even more surprising was Gavrik's possession of a blood-burning Pilvora. The boy clearly no longer cared about his future. How would Kaelin handle this? On the stage, Kaelin rushed forward, saber in hand. He sensed extreme danger from his opponent, but was momentarily stunned when Gavrik cursed Roderick, a sight that felt strangely satisfying. Shouting for his enemy to die, he brought his ghost-headed saber down with greater force than before, aiming to end the fight quickly. Gavrik's current state was too bizarre. He roared in response, longsword rising to meet the blow, his body wreathed in crimson light. The stench of blood reached Kaelin even across the clash. Their weapons collided. Numbness shot through Kaelin's wrist. The opponent's strength was utterly transformed. Yet he did not retreat, continuing to hack away. Gavrik fought with equal ferocity, wielding his sword as if his life meant nothing, because the moment he swallowed the pill, he had effectively thrown it away. In the blink of an eye, they exchanged over 10 blows. Both were bloodied, but Kaelin was clearly worse off. Gavrik's aura completely overwhelmed him, placing the man at least at the 7th level of Starfall transformation. Kaelin cursed his carelessness. Face grim. He had believed his 5th level cultivation sufficient to crush Gavrik easily. He had underestimated sect disciples, from the silver talisman that blocked his sword energy, to the simultaneous barrage of Fulgura talismans, to this final pill. Their wealth of resources was evident. Still, Gavrik fell far short of Darien, closed-door disciple of the Luminor Cave Heaven Elder, whose techniques and artifacts were in another league entirely. Gavrik roared in fury, declaring Kaelin had forced the blood-burning Pilvora upon him, swearing he would pay with his life. In his rage, he had forgotten Taurin entirely. The pill's consequences were foundation damage. Severe cases meant cultivation could never advance another half-step. Even if he returned to the misty immortal palace, he would be a cripple. All because of the man before him. All because they shared the surname Korith. Gripping his longsword, Gavrik charged again, radiating terrifying crimson light. Kaelin spat blood, eyes cold and sharp. Then a voice rang in his ears. The blood-burning Pilvora uses one's own essence blood as catalyst. At his strength, it can last a quarter hour at most. He recognized Valerius's voice. The transmission technique required at least profound core realm cultivation. He knew the Elder's status as Borealis Pavilion Master of the Aurelia Pavilion, but had not expected such depth. No time to dwell on it now. Kaelin lifted his saber, drew a deep breath, and prepared to meet the onslaught head-on. Half an hour. He only needed to hold on for half an hour. More bloodstains bloomed across Kaelin's body, dyeing his white robe crimson, white bone visible through the deepest wounds. Gavrik was different. The pill drove him nearly mad. He took multiple slashes, bled profusely, and acted as if nothing had happened, swinging his sword without pause. The fight had become entirely one-sided. A man who felt no pain and valued his life not at all was terrifying beyond measure. Most would have lost the will to fight long ago against such an opponent. But Kaelin was not most men. He was ruthless to others, and even more ruthless to himself. The battle raged on. Gavrik absorbed punishment that should have felled him twice over, yet he fought with a madness that bordered on delirium, each wound seemingly fueling rather than diminishing him. From his vantage in the air, Valerius watched without intervening. He had warned Kaelin against a head-on clash, but the boy had chosen the harder path, using the fight itself as a crucible to shatter his own limits. "This child is stubborn," Valerius murmured. Then again, every strong person refuses to accept defeat passively. Time stretched. Gavrik's roar shattered the rhythm. "Impossible! How are you still standing? How can you be so strong?" The blood-burning Pilvora had left him delirious. Reality had diverged violently from expectation. Not only did Kaelin's strength exceed projection, his resilience was monstrous. Even the misty immortal palace's most vaunted geniuses would struggle to match such tenacity. Kaelin said nothing. His body was a lattice of wounds, blood slick across every inch of skin, yet his eyes burned with undimmed focus, tracking every micro-shift in Gavrik's stance. He would not fall. Damn it, Torin, this guy is far from trash. Gavrik spat, fury laced with disbelief. A disciple of the misty immortal palace, a bright future ahead, undone by his own sycophancy. The pill's effects waned, essence drained, his aura sputtered, and the long sword slipped from nerveless fingers to clatter against stone. Kaelin did not rush. He advanced step by measured step, the three-tasked ghost-head blade held ready. Despair washed across Gavrik's face. Side effects ravaged him, he lacked even the strength to stand. No, don't kill me. I'm a disciple of the misty immortal palace. They won't let you off. The words tumbled out, repeated, frantic, instinctual. Fear stripped away dignity. Then he saw Kaelin's eyes, cold, final, already regarding him as a corpse, and his knees buckled. Lord Korith, I beg you, spare my life. A disciple of the misty immortal palace, kneeling in the dirt. Gasps rippled through the crowd, spineless. Ruthless. The Veilers exhaled in collective relief, tension finally breaking. The Koriths went pale, Roderick especially, humiliated that this palace lackey had not only lost but begged before everyone. Inside the City Lord's mansion, Branna released a long breath. I didn't expect the boy to be this ruthless. He shook his head, still processing. Only a short time since the Spirit Stone Mine, and he's already at the 5th level of Starfall transformation. 10 times Torin's cultivation speed. His future is limitless. Terrifying, Haldor agreed. But Branna, aren't you going to stop him? Killing a palace disciple invites catastrophe, life or death pact or not. Zyric hesitated, the weight of the same calculation settling over him. After a long moment, whether to kill or not, let him decide for himself. Haldor studied him, sighed and fell silent. Valerius smiled faintly. What will you choose, to kill or not to kill? Kaelin stopped before Gavrik, blade poised. Lord Korith, I can be your servant, your dog. Just don't kill me. 6th level Starfall transformation, I can be useful. Gavrik kowtowed, terror having hollowed out everything but the will to survive. Look up. Kaelin's voice was chill. Answer what I ask. Do you hear me? If I answer truthfully, will you let me go? You have no choice. Refuse, and you die now. Gavrik nodded frantically. Why did Torin send you? Why didn't he come himself? Kaelin knew his brother. Torin would have come personally if he suspected a treasure. Sending a subordinate was out of character. Torin has become a disciple of Elder Shomir, an outer sect elder of the misty immortal palace. He planned to come, but Shomir secured him a spot in the marrow-deep Clenzora poolshade. He couldn't leave. Gavrik's words spilled out. He gave me no other instructions, just capture you and bring you back. He wants to interrogate you personally. I know nothing else. Kaelin processed. What is Elder Shomir's cultivation? All outer sect elders are at least profound core realm. Shomir is among the strongest. Great perfection of Starfall transformation within profound core. Perfected profound core. The words carried weight. A master of that caliber could flatten Iron Peak City alone. What is the marrow-deep Clenzora poolshade? It cleanses marrow, refines essence, unlocks potential, enhances aptitude. The spiritual energy inside triggers cultivation surges. Does the palace know you're here? I don't know about the palace. This wasn't a palace mission, it was for Torin. I've told you everything. Please, spare my life. Kaelin nodded once. The blade moved, a single swift stroke. Blood arced. Gavrik's head separated from his shoulders. Astonishment sucked the air from the square. No one expected Kaelin to behead Gavrik so swiftly. The victim was a disciple of the misty immortal palace. Kaelin, how dare you kill a disciple of the misty immortal palace? Roderick stood and cursed. You beast, who gave you the audacity? Kaelin did not reply. He merely turned his head and fixed the man with a cold stare. Under that icy gaze, Roderick felt as if a prehistoric beast were eyeing him. A chill ran down his spine and his voice trailed off. The Velar family members were equally astonished. They had not expected such decisiveness. Onlookers murmured in shock. This Kaelin who would dare provoke this scourge in the future? I think the Korith family is regretting it to the core now. This is no useless person, he is clearly a true dragon. Disciples of the misty immortal palace killed without hesitation. Truly ruthless. A heavy silence fell over the crowd. Inside the city lord's mansion, even Branner could not help but cover his face. Haldor glanced at him. You're worried that if he doesn't kill Gavrik, he won't quell his anger and it will affect his cultivation. But if he does kill him, what happens to your Vela family? What if the misty immortal palace really sends someone? It's not just that. You know very well it's unfair to stop him from acting just because of his identity. The patriarch sighed. This time, Torin sent a disciple from the misty immortal palace who dared come to my Vela family to seize Kalen. My clan should have stood up to stop him, but instead Kalen had to face it himself. That's unfair to him. How can I stop him from killing with his own hands? Haldor glanced at him but said nothing more. The two had a good private relationship spanning many years. The advice was well-intentioned, yet Branner's reasoning left him speechless. Valerius chuckled in mid-air. Good lad, decisive and ruthless, without the slightest hesitation, a promising talent. His figure vanished. No one had ever noticed he was there. On the arena, Kalen, dressed in blood, bent and took Gavrik's storage bag from his waist, then transferred the ashen-grayed magic sword from the dead man's hand into his own bag. A disciple of the misty immortal palace, there had to be many treasures inside. He returned to the Vela family group and left under the awe-inspiring gazes of the onlookers. Back at the clan, Kalen went straight to the villa where a doctor bandaged his wounds. Garrick and a group of elders arrived, exchanged brief greetings and departed. Seeing he was all right, Elara felt relieved. She did not stay by his side, instead retiring to the next room to let him rest. Kalen had just handed the three-tasseled ghost head blade to Garrick, asking him to pass it to Branner. The disciples of the misty immortal palace are indeed not simple. I almost capsized in a ditch, he murmured. The power unleashed by the blood-burning pilvora Gavrik had taken was truly terrifying. If the opponent's cultivation had been slightly higher, or the pill's effects lasted longer, Kalen might be the one lying in a pool of blood. But what exactly is Eldamir's cultivation level? The Aurelia Pavilion doesn't seem as simple as it appears. He recalled the telepathic reminder from the Elder, and Gavrik's attitude toward him. Forget it, let's see what's in the storage bag. This was the second storage bag Kalen had obtained. The first, from Darius, a guest elder of the Vela family, contained only a dozen spirit stones. He first erased a divine sense mark on Gavrik's bag, making it ownerless, then probed it with his own sense. He gasped instantly. Over 300 spirit stones, 5 jade bottles of pills, an outer disciple token of the misty immortal palace, more than 10 thunder and fire talismans, a silver talisman to resist sword energy, and some clothes. A quick check of the bottles revealed 4 held healing pills. The 5th contained a single blood-burning pilvora. No wonder they say killing and robbing brings quick riches. I only killed Gavrik and got all this. The Thunderfire talismans alone were worth over 100 spirit stones. The silver talisman was obviously more valuable. Including the pills and spirit stones, Kalen estimated the total value at nearly 1,000 spirit stones. Although his astral chart of Evernight held vast resources, he could not access any of them. He was in a great mood to gain so much from a single kill. He almost wished a few more troublemakers would come. After inventorying the loot, he closed his eyes, entered the astral chart of Evernight with his divine sense, and began consuming large amounts of spiritual medicine to heal. On the other side, Garrick gathered the entire clan in the conference room. He sat in the main seat, scanned the room and said, "Everyone witnessed Kalen killing the misty immortal palace disciple today. Any thoughts?" The elders exchanged glances, then began speaking. "This Kalen is actually so strong. That disciple was only at the 6th level of Starfall Transformation Realm, yet he still managed to kill him," one praised. "He killed a disciple of the misty immortal palace. Our Vela family might be in big trouble now. He's caused a huge disaster," another worried. "The other side came to provoke us and both signed a life-or-death agreement. The misty immortal palace can't be unreasonable," a third said indignantly. The scene descended into chaos. Garrick helplessly covered his head. Just after returning, Branner had summoned him and dropped a bombshell that was giving him a real headache. He had called these elders to discuss feasibility, and the result: "All right, Kalen has already killed the envoy from the misty immortal palace, so there's no need to mention this matter further. My father will make arrangements for what comes next." At those words, the elders fell silent. However, two seemed to sense Garrick had more on his mind. "Is there something else you want to discuss? Tell us." Garrick's expression turned strange. He paused, organized his thoughts and said in a deep voice, "My father told me, Kaelin's current talent has surpassed most prodigies. He believes our Vela family must keep him and firmly bind him to us." The elders pondered, then nodded in strong agreement with the patriarch's opinion. Then, "My father said that since Kaelin married into our family, and because of Ilara's appearance, he was worried Kaelin might change his mind as he grew up. After all, they are both men." The elders remained silent, eyes fixed on Garrick, waiting. "So my father wants to marry Seraphina to Kaelin." The elders of the Draconis clan wore expressions of collective bewilderment. "Perhaps we should betroth Seraphina to Kaelin. Both sisters married to the same man who already lives with their husbands. Anarin, would you truly have both your daughters serve one husband?" Silence settled over the chamber. Garrick's face drained of color. He had only 2 daughters. Ilara the elder bore a birthmark that marred her face, and he had scarcely looked her way in years. Seraphina, the youngest, was his treasure. Yet now the elders proposed giving her to Kaelin as well. He sighed, the sound heavy with resignation. "This was my father's notion. I intend to speak with Seraphina first. If she consents, I will not stand in the way." He did not commit. Marrying off a daughter served the family, but he would not wrong his youngest. The elders exchanged glances and withdrew. Once a daughter married, she belonged to another household. That night, Garrick knocked on Seraphina's door. "Father, what brings you at this hour?" She opened the door, curiosity warring with sleep. He coughed lightly. "There are matters I wish to discuss. I would hear your thoughts." "Why not during the day? Why come all this way in the middle of the night?" She stepped aside nonetheless, letting him enter. He did not speak at once. He crossed to the tea table and sat. She followed, perching beside him, unsettled. She had never seen him so hesitant. 17 this year, are you not?" he said. "I'm not getting any younger." Her eyebrow arched. She understood. "Father, you want to marry me off? You don't want me anymore." The words cracked. At 17 she felt discarded. Seeing her distress, Garrick's resolve wavered. The thought of giving both daughters to a live-in son-in-law galled him further. "Very well, if you do not wish to marry so young, forget it. I never agreed in the first place." "Father, who did you intend to marry me to?" Curiosity cut through her hurt. Why ask her opinion if he opposed the match? His expression grew strange. "Your grandfather wishes to betroth you to Kaelin. He believes Kaelin suitable." Seraphina froze. Kaelin, her brother-in-law, would Ilara accept it? Yet the thought did not repel her. Kaelin was handsome, formidably capable. 100 questions flickered through her mind in a single breath. "Forget it," Garrick muttered, rising. "I will refuse. No need to worry. Pretend I never came." He turned toward the door, the weight of absurdity pressing on him. 2 daughters fighting for one man. Impossible. "Father, wait." Her hand caught his sleeve. "Grandfather must have deeper reasons." Garrick mistook her motive. "You need not feel obligated. You know your sister's face. Kaelin's talent is extraordinary. Grandfather only wants to bind him tightly to the Velas. There are other ways. This need not involve you." He took her face in his hands, thumb brushing a tear. "Do not worry, Seraphina. Your father will never let you suffer. Whatever the cost, I will stop grandfather and prevent this marriage." He moved to leave, meaning to confront the patriarch that very night, dread coiling in his gut like a walk to the scaffold. "Father, I do want to marry." He paused, patting her head. "Seraphina, do not be like this. I will be fine. At worst, a scolding." "Father, I really want to marry my brother-in-law." Tears spilled. Why would he not listen? "Seraphina, do not cry. Even if I die, I will never let you marry Kaelin." He pushed the door open, then stopped. Her fingers clamped around his ankle, anchoring him. "Father, I really want to marry my brother-in-law. Truly." She wiped her face, voice rushing. "He is handsome and strong. Marrying him is better than marrying a stranger." Garrick stood paralyzed, stunned into silence. "Father, look at his talent. Even my eldest brother cannot match him. The Velas must keep such a man in the clan. Besides, he is a live-in son-in-law. I would never have to leave you. And grandfather is right. Kaelin is a true genius. Ilara cannot handle him, but I can. Believe me." She poured out argument after argument, terrified he would refuse. No one knew a daughter better than her father. Garrick saw the calculation beneath her fervor, the want she dressed in filial logic. A long silence. Then he sighed. Are you certain? Absolutely. I will marry no one but my brother-in-law in this lifetime. She thumped her chest in vow. Garrick felt the strange hollowing of a man losing both cabbages from his patch. He left. Seraphina watched him go, joy blooming in her chest, and spent the night dreaming of a future with Kaelan. Kaelan, the unwitting center of it all, sat deep within the astral chart of Evernight, consolidating his cultivation. He stood on the threshold of the mid-stage 5th level of the Starfall transformation realm, entirely unaware that his household had just been rearranged. 3 days after Kaelan's victory over the misty Immortal Palace disciples, Iron Peak City still buzzed with the tale. The story had grown in the telling. Now he had killed a palace disciple, and the misty Immortal Palace would send enforcers to slaughter the entire populace in retaliation. Have you heard? They might butcher everyone in Iron Peak. I've heard, but who knows what's true? If it is true, we've all been ruined by Kaelan Korith. The talk grew heated enough that City Lord Haldor dispatched agents to suppress the rumors before panic took root. The Vela family tracked the gossip as well. What troubled them was the clear malice behind it, aimed squarely at Kaelan and the clan, yet their investigations turned up nothing. The source remained a ghost. Meanwhile, Kaelan remained in seclusion, unaware of the uproar. When he opened his eyes on the 3rd day, his aura had deepened, more restrained now, his gaze carrying a new weight. He found Alara waiting in the main hall, veiled as always. Their eyes met, and he sensed a tangle beneath her composure, shyness, resentment, helplessness. What's wrong? He asked before she could speak. She hesitated, color rising beneath the veil. Garrick had already broached the subject of betrothing her younger sister, Seraphina, to him. Marrying one's own sister to one's husband was a bitter pill. Yet the family's reasoning was sound, his talent was prodigious, and they needed to bind him fast. Nothing. Father said to see him once you're out. He has something important to tell you. Kaelan nodded. I'll go now. She paused. There have been many rumors about you in Iron Peak City lately. She outlined the talk of retaliation, of possible massacre. His face darkened. He smelled conspiracy. After a few more words, he made for the clan's main hall. Garrick was conferring with the elders when a servant announced Kaelan's arrival. The patriarch ordered him brought in immediately. Master of the family, Kaelan greeted. As son-in-law, he should have called him father, but they had barely interacted before. By the time Garrick revised his opinion, Kaelan was already a rising star, so the patriarch let the formality slide. Kaelan, I have something to tell you. Garrick laughed, though the smile sat awkward. The elders exchanged strange glances between him and Kaelan. It would be odd if he felt comfortable marrying both daughters to the same man. Patriarch, please speak freely. Kaelan noted the embarrassment and wondered if the clan wanted him gone to avoid misty Immortal Palace trouble. Understandable, if so not worth dragging the whole family down for a son-in-law. What came next made his eyes widen, then fill with shock. Kaelan, we've decided it's unfair for you to be with Alara alone. We're betrothing Seraphina to you so the two sisters may serve you together. His jaw nearly hit the floor, an expression he had never worn, not even when activating the astral chart of Evernight. The elders stared with matching peculiar looks. Garrick coughed lightly. Kaelan, what do you think of marrying Seraphina? In truth, his heart bled, but his face stayed calm. Seeing the dazed look, he assumed the young man was smitten. Seraphina was a renowned beauty, after all. The elders agreed, a dream come true for any man. Patriarch, this is unacceptable. Kaelan's voice trembled. Now he understood Alara's earlier look. You don't want to? Master, I'm already married to Alara. Taking Seraphina would wrong them both. Please reconsider. He pleaded urgently, not from disinterest in multiple wives, nor from principle, but because Seraphina was impossibly talkative. The mere thought sent chills down his spine. He could already hear the endless daily murmurs. Garrick felt a storm of mixed emotions. He had expected joy and grateful agreement. Instead, the man looked like he faced catastrophe. Was his daughter truly that bad? All right. He waved it off. We'll settle this later. Grandfather wants to see you come. Eager to move on, he led Kaelan away. Kaelan followed, covertly wiping cold sweat from his brow. The clan was not kicking him out. They were nailing him to their doorstep. Before he could puzzle out the patriarch's true aim, they arrived at a secluded, luxuriously appointed courtyard with a small garden, devoid of servants. At the villa's main hall entrance, Garrick knocked respectfully. Enter. The Vela family patriarch's voice came from within. The door opened. Both men stepped inside. The old patriarch sat cross-legged on the main futon, gazing up at them, especially at Kaelin, with kindly eyes. Kaelin, we'll set a date for your marriage to Seraphina soon. No thanks needed. Kaelin stared, stunned. Garrick stood beside him, equally speechless. Neither could have imagined the clan patriarch would utter such a sentence the moment they opened the door. In that instant, Kaelin understood. The person who had arranged his marriage to Seraphina was the very man standing before him. That old scoundrel had ruined him. Garrick coughed lightly. He hadn't had a chance to tell his father that Kaelin disagreed. Father, let's discuss Kaelin and Seraphina later. Let's get down to business first. Branor glanced at them, sensing the situation differed from what he'd imagined. He'd expected Kaelin to be grateful the moment he entered, to kneel and thank him immediately. Why did he look so mournful? True enough, we can talk about children later. The patriarch organized his thoughts. Kaelin, you've incurred the wrath of the misty immortal palace. Have you thought about what comes next? The grudge between you and Torin runs too deep to resolve. This time he brought a disciple from the palace. You can kill him. But if someone with higher cultivation comes later, the consequences will be unimaginable. Kaelin lowered his head, pondering. I want to join a sect, to have someone to rely on. The idea wasn't new. Only within a sect could he go higher and see further. Torin sending people had merely accelerated the timeline. Branor nodded, satisfied. Actually, I called you here to discuss this. The Vela family may be the strongest in Iron Peak City, but in Dragonspire Prefecture there are many forces stronger than us. Joining a sect is indeed your best choice. Kaelin nodded. Garrick remained silent. Branor had discussed this with Kaelin before. What are your thoughts on choosing a sect? The patriarch asked, gaze fixed on Kaelin. Kaelin thought, then shook his head. I don't have a target yet. I can offer suggestions. Listen. Branor spoke slowly. The premier power in Marchelon Empyrean State is, as its name suggests, the misty immortal palace. Its selection is rigorous. Every year it sends envoys to recruit geniuses. This should be the best choice. However, Torin is currently highly valued there, so I don't recommend it. Kaelin nodded. His thoughts aligned. The palace was strongest, but unsuitable. Below the palace are Luminor Cave Heaven, the Fulgura sect, and the Extreme Immortal sect. Only these three have the power to protect you. Even the palace wouldn't dare offend them easily. Luminor Cave Heaven was where Darien belonged. He'd become an elder's disciple there, and the tortoise shell treasure he carried had been a gift from that elder. He also possessed a technique that could instantly freeze a soul, likely from the same source. The Fulgura sect's influence was no less formidable. Its inner disciples were notoriously domineering. Thorn had once been favored by a Fulgura elder and invited to join. The Extreme Immortal sect was said to be the oldest in history. At its peak it had surpassed even the misty Immortal Palace. No one knew why it declined, yet it maintained its position among the top four, demonstrating profound heritage. Branor laid out the advantages and disadvantages of each. Lower-ranked sects he advised against. Besides lacking resources, they might not withstand Torin if he gained power in the palace. I've outlined the situation. What are your thoughts? Both Patriarch and Garrick watched Kaelin. He pondered, then said, I want to go to the Extreme Immortal sect. First, its foundation. The oldest sect, by no means weaker than other forces, even the palace's foundation might not be much stronger. And it was fully capable of protecting him, even against the palace. Branor nodded slowly. A very good choice. The Vela family preferred the Fulgura sect. Thorn would be going there soon, and the two could watch each other's backs, but since Kaelin had chosen, they wouldn't stop him. Have you heard the rumors circulating outside? Branor asked. Kaelin nodded. He sighed. We've investigated. The Korath family is involved, but the Luminar family of Emberglade City appears to be as well. The Korath family's involvement was expected. But why would the Luminars slander him? Kaelin frowned. The Koraths spread rumors to ruin your reputation. Make you a sinner in Iron Peak. As for the Luminars, it's because you injured Cedric and Corvin in succession. They're this generation's hope for the Luminar family, and you nearly ruined them. But what's their purpose? What's the point of slandering me? This puzzled him most. Branor sighed. You've already joined the Vela family. The rumors may not affect you personally, but they've greatly damaged our status and reputation in Iron Peak. Most of our businesses here are experiencing significant decline. Kalen realized the strategy: target him while simultaneously attacking the Veilers. He was now a Veiler member, and the family's stance toward the palace disciples was clear. The rumors could also sow discord between him and his new family. In that instant he understood everything. Though he'd married in involuntarily, never truly considering himself a Veiler, recent events and Ilara's kindness had shifted his perception. The Veilers treated him at least 100 times better than the Koriths ever had. Seeing his face darken, Branor laughed. "It's all right, don't worry, they're minor matters. Since you've acquired the Spirit Stone mine, even poor business won't matter. There's about a month before the Extreme Immortal Sect's triennial recruitment. Go back, prepare, and find a time to set off." Kalen returned to the villa after a brief exchange with Garrick. In the hall, Ilara sat opposite Seraphina, her face flushing at his entrance. He had meant to speak with her, but the younger sister's presence swallowed the words. "Brother-in-law, you're back." Seraphina sprang from her seat and skipped over. He coughed, nodded, and turned his gaze to Ilara. "Did father talk to you about something?" Seraphina asked, blinking with secret delight. "Some rumors circulating outside," Kalen replied hesitantly. "Besides that? Joining a sect?" "It's not about those things, it's about me." "About me," she insisted, a flash of anger in her voice. Kalen changed course immediately. "Ilara, I'll be leaving for the Extreme Immortal Sect in a few days. Please prepare some clothes, I'll be in seclusion until then." He vanished before she could respond. Ilara started to ask what business he had at the sect, but he was already gone. Seraphina stamped her foot, then stormed off to demand answers from their father. In the secretum room, Kalen wiped cold sweat from his brow. He would rather face a duel to the death than endure Seraphina's company. Keep cultivating. At least reach the 5th level of Starfall transformation. Light flashed in his eyes. Last time he had recovered from his injuries and reached the mid-stage of the 5th level in 3 days. He had no need to consolidate yet. He could push straight through. The Extreme Immortal Sect would demand every ounce of strength. He knew nothing of its inner workings, but the competition would be fierce. For 5 days, Seraphina came daily to the villa, only to be turned away at the door. The Veiler residents seethed with unrest. She harassed Garrick each morning, and had even sought out Branor once. The servants knew nothing of the cause. The elders, deeply moved, kept their counsel. Rumors swept Iron Peak City. At first they spared the Veiler name. The first family of the city commanded too much fear. But lately the talk had turned, dragging the clan's reputation down with it. "This Kalen is a curse. The misty immortal palace has sent hunters. He'll drag us all down. It's the Veiler's fault if they'd handed him over." "Quiet. Don't let them hear you. Why fear? It's all because of him, and we can't even speak." Maybe the Korith clan had reason to cast him out. On the 5th day, Kalen emerged from seclusion, the 5th level of Starfall transformation secured. He exchanged a few words with Ilara, then set out for the Aurelia Pavilion. Valerius had aided him greatly. A farewell visit was only proper. He would have gone alone, but Ilara insisted the family provide a carriage. He did not object. Along the streets, the insults carried clearly to his heightened senses. He had made himself a sinner in Iron Peak City. Before, he had only heard whispers. Now the vitriol was open. He had never cared much for reputation. Back in the Korith clan they had called him a good-for-nothing, but these new slurs made the old ones seem mild. The carriage halted before the Aurelia Pavilion. Kalen entered and climbed straight to the 2nd floor, finding the girl who had guided him before and asking her to announce him to Valerius. She nodded, surprised, and returned shortly to lead him to the top-floor pavilion, the same spare room. Valerius was making tea, his face breaking into a smile at Kalen's arrival. "How did you end up here? There's been no end of talk about you lately." He waved Kalen into the opposite chair. Kalen sat and sighed. "Elder Valerius, please don't mock me." "Little guy, what brings you?" Valerius poured 2 cups. "I plan to join the Extreme Immortal Sect and leave Iron Peak City soon." Valerius was unsurprised. "A fine choice. The sect's foundation is profound, deeper even than the misty Immortal Palace. Its advanced techniques are severely incomplete though, and few ancient inheritances remain." He sighed, a note of regret in it. His knowledge of the sect ran deeper than Branor's, Kalen noted. The Borealis Pavilion master of the Aurelia Pavilion would naturally be well informed. "You know the sect well, Elder?" Valerius smiled. "The Extreme Immortal Sect predates the Marshallon Empyrean Dynastra. For reasons unknown, it suffered a devastating blow and was nearly erased. The misty immortal palace rose in that vacuum. What nearly destroyed the sect, I cannot say. Kalen absorbed this. Incomplete techniques, but a profound foundation. It suited him. He lacked neither techniques nor resources, all contained within the astral chart of Evernight. What he needed was a solid base. Taurin's entry into the Marrow-Deep Cleansora poolshade had been such a foundation for the misty immortal palace, cleansing essence and marrow, elevating talent. Thank you, Elder, there is something I would ask of you. Speak freely. Valerius sipped his tea, eyes narrowing with amusement. After I leave, if the misty immortal palace comes for the Vaylor family, I hope you will intervene. Kalen stood and bowed. The family was entangled because of him. His departure would leave them exposed. I can promise that. If they come, I will mediate. Valerius set down his cup. But you must promise me one thing in return. Valerius's words caught Kalen off guard. He hadn't expected the old man to offer help. What could someone like him possibly do? Seeing his confusion, Valerius smiled faintly. Nothing's wrong, I just wanted you to remember this favor. If you amount to anything in the future, remember you owe me. Senior, I'll remember. With the elder's backing, Kalen's worries eased. He spent half an hour questioning Valerius about the extreme immortal sect, and the old man answered openly, to Kalen's considerable benefit. After taking his leave, Kalen hurried back to the Vaylor mansion through a gauntlet of curses from the street. Gavrick's standing in the misty immortal palace couldn't have been high, or he wouldn't have been courting Taurin's favor. With a life-or-death agreement secured and Valerius intervening, the palace wouldn't trouble the Vaylors. The only real problem was Taurin. Kalen knew his younger brother too well. He wouldn't rest until he'd wrung the secret from Kalen himself. Back at the house, Kalen dined with Elara, but didn't retreat to the secret room. Instead, he asked her to prepare a bedroom. For all their years of marriage, they'd never truly lived together. Lying in bed, he murmured, "Since coming to the Vaylors, I haven't had a proper night's rest in a bed except when I was half dead." A self-deprecating smile touched his lips. A Korith by birth, unwelcome in his own clan, he'd become a live-in son-in-law only to find himself strangely sought after. Elara's family even wanted both daughters married to him. Once I reach the extreme immortal sect, I need to do 3 things: grow stronger, gather the remaining herbs for the Astravi Pilvora, and learn alchemy. The astral chart of Evernight contained alchemical texts and herb references, but no furnace, and alchemy was too deep a craft to master alone. 3 days slipped by. Kalen didn't seclude himself. He stayed by Elara's side, genuinely grateful. From the moment they'd carried him in half dead, the Vaylors had tended him without a flicker of disgust. Everything since had only deepened the bond. Though their marriage remained unconsummated, he already considered her his true wife. He'd hinted at consummation these past days. She'd refused, afraid he'd despise her if he saw her face. She never said it aloud, but he knew. Serafina clung to him daily, and each time he fled, leaving only a retreating silhouette. Before dawn on the 4th day, Kalen rose, washed, and accompanied Elara to pay respects to Branna. Today he'd leave for the sect. He'd memorized the route. The family had also provided a map, 500 spirit stones, and travel necessities. His departure stayed within the household. After killing misty immortal palace disciples, discretion was wise. At the mansion gate, the family gathered. Garrick, several elders, Serafina. Thorn had already left for the Fulgura sect a day earlier. "Come back safely," Elara said. Her veil hid her face, but tears glistened at its edges. Kalen's voice was grave. "Don't worry, I'll return, and I'll find a way to heal your face." He kissed her forehead. Garrick and the elders looked away. Serafina pouted. "What about me?" No one acknowledged her. The elders offered final instructions, then watched his figure recede. The household steeped in quiet emotion. "When did we start accepting him?" The second elder muttered. The others fell silent, considering. When had this unwanted son-in-law, dismissed as worthless, truly become one of them? "I can't speak for you," the third elder said. "But when I saw him fight for the Valas, when he battled Darien to the death, I considered him family." He laughed, recalling the fight none of them would forget. A long silence followed. Elara said nothing. She stood alone long after Kalen vanished, still facing the road he'd taken. Kalen left Iron Peak City at a run, heading east. At the 5th level of Starfall transformation, 1 step from the 6th, he moved faster on foot than any horse. 8,000 lie to the sex territory. At this pace, 10 days at sunset, he washed his face in a clear stream. Need to hurry, or I'll sleep under the stars. He kept running. A day out, he passed a large city at noon but didn't enter. The sex annual recruitment began in 20 days, plenty of time, but he'd rather arrive early against the unexpected. Dusk found him at Ebonreach City, similar in size to Iron Peak. He paid a spirit stone at the gate, found an inn, and ordered food to his room. The waiter showed him up warmly. After Kaelan left the common room, 2 strangers appeared outside the inn, faces that didn't belong in Ebonreach. Can you confirm it's him? It can't be. Kaelan left the inn before dawn, heading east along a road that cut through dense forest. The heat built steadily. By mid-morning, sweat clung to his brow, and he wiped it away with the back of his hand. 2 hours out of Ebonreach, the only sounds were birdsong and the rustle of unseen animals in the undergrowth. He stopped abruptly and turned, eyes narrowing. Come out. You've been following me since I left the city. Aren't you tired? A rush of displaced air. 2 figures materialized from the tree line, one heavy-set, one gaunt, both dressed in black. Strangers, they studied him with open curiosity. The heavier man spoke first. How did you spot us? Kaelan didn't answer. Who sent you, here to kill me or something else? The thin one sneered. So young, yet you speak like a veteran. Save the talk, we're discovered. Let's fight. They exchanged a glance, greed bright in their eyes, and nodded. Their auras flared, both at the 5th level of Starfall transformation. Kaelan's eyes went cold. A long sword materialized in his grip, his own aura surging to meet theirs. An ashen rank weapon, the thin man breathed, surprised. They hadn't expected that kind of backing from someone his age. Greed sharpened into something hungrier. Looks like we'll strike it rich today, the fat man grinned. Not just the bounty, an ashen-grade sword. Whoever kills him first claims it. Agreed. Who gave you the courage to speak like that? Kaelan almost laughed. These 2 were idiots. Boy, prepare to die, provoked. Each drew a long knife, yellow rank artifacts, a full tier below his blade, and charged. Their coordination was flawless, honed by years of murder and robbery together. They had never lost to same realm opponents, and could even hold their own against someone a minor realm higher. Yet within a few breaths of engagement, bewilderment cracked their confidence. How can he be this strong? The fat man's blade clashed with Kaelan's. The shock traveled up his arm, hand bones groaning. A kick drove into his stomach, folding him double, blood spraying from his mouth. The thin man fared no better. He tried a flanking strike during the clash, but Kaelan sidestepped with impossible nimbleness and nearly took his head with the return stroke. Damn it, we've run into a tough nut. The fat man coughed, organs churning, pain radiating from the kick. Isn't this kid 5th level? How can he be so strong? The thin man's voice cracked. They'd have believed 7th level. Kaelan didn't press the advantage. He held his ground, sword tip lowered. One more time. Who sent you? Damn it, let's kill him. The fat man roared and charged again, the thin man right behind. Courting death, Kaelan slashed, sending 2 invisible sword energies slicing through the air. The fat man blocked, staggering back to dissipate the force. The thin man leaped clear. Before either could breathe, Kaelan vanished. Not good. The thin man sensed killing intent at his back and whipped around, too late. Kaelan stood there, blade flashing silver, blood arced. The thin man's legs severed at the thigh, he collapsed screaming. Second brother. The fat man lunged to help, but Kaelan reappeared in front of him in a heartbeat. What? No time to think. He gritted his teeth, gripped his sword with his remaining hand, and slashed wildly. Kaelan's blade moved like water, the fat man's sword arm flew free, weapon still clenched in a dead fist. Before the scream could form, a second flash took the other arm. Moments later, both men lay in a heap, groaning. Kaelan hadn't killed them. He watched coldly as blood pooled beneath the fat man's shoulder stumps and the thin man's truncated legs. Starfall transformation cultivators were durable. Ordinary men would have bled out already. The screaming stopped. Pale, terrified faces turned toward him. Now, Kaelan said, voice flat. Can we talk properly? If you're even half a word slow, you've no reason to live. They were terrified now. He was a devil. First question, who sent you? Sir, the Luminar family. The Luminar family sent us. The fat man blurted. The Luminars of Emberglade City. The thin man confirmed it. That's right, the Luminar family. Kalen nodded. Explain everything, clearly, neither dared hide or bargain. They told him all. The moment Kalen left Iron Peak, the Luminars had received word and dispatched hunters with a single directive: kill him. They knew his route, contacting local underworld networks in each city to track his movements. The bounty was staggering for Starfall transformation cultivators: 1,000 spirit stones for the kill, 500 for confirmed intelligence. The Luminars had also disclosed his cultivation at 5th level, but explicitly warned that anyone below 6th level should not engage. Instead, they were to report via provided communication jade slips. After hearing their explanation, Kalen understood. The two assassins cared only for money, which was why they had ignored the Luminars' warning. He was merely at the 5th level of the Starfall transformation realm, yet 1,000 spirit stones had been offered for his head. Greed alone had driven them to act. Sir, that is everything, please spare us, the fat man pleaded. The skinny man echoed, Sir, have mercy, we only acted on the Luminar's orders. Kalen ignored them. Did you report my location to the Luminar family? The pair hesitated. That silence confirmed his suspicion. In your next life, don't cross the wrong people. His voice was calm. Before the words faded, his long sword flashed. 2 heads fell, faces frozen in terror and disbelief. The Luminar family, he muttered, a ruthless glint in his eyes. The feud began when he crippled Cedric at Vela's birthday celebration and deepened during the Spirit Stone Mine competition, where he nearly killed Corvin. Every clash gave the Luminars more reason to want him dead. Late that night, the 2 corpses lay in the wilderness, already attracting scavengers. 3 figures materialized beside the mangled remains, faces grim. One struck down a feeding wolf, scattering the rest. A man stepped forward, checked the bodies, and said, These are the informants from Ebon Reach City who passed us Kalen's trail. I never expected them to die here. Have those 2 fools been exposed? A middle-aged man asked, expression dark. Damn it. Those good-for-nothings caused more trouble than they were worth, the third spat. Don't panic. Judging by the time and location of their last message, Kalen can't be far. He's heading for the extreme immortal sect. If we move east, we'll intercept him. The middle-aged man's tone marked him as the leader. All 3 were Luminar elders. Seems that's our only option. The others nodded, and the trio prepared to leave. Then a streak of silver light cut the darkness. A figure dropped between them, long sword slashing across one elder's throat. Blood sprayed. The man dropped with a single strike. The remaining 2 froze, then bolted. The attacker formed a hand seal, golden light flaring, throat crushing Lockhaven. The golden seal slammed into one fleeing elder's abdomen. He screamed as intestines burst and stomach ruptured. In a heartbeat, one elder was dead, another crippled. Kalen fixed his gaze on the last man, breathing steady, eyes cold. After killing the first pair, he hadn't fled, he'd waited. He gambled the Luminars would send searchers when the informants went silent, and that those searchers would find the bodies rather than walk blindly into unknown ambushes ahead. He would strike here first, eliminate a few, and extract intelligence on the Luminars' full deployment. The surviving elder recognized him instantly. You, Kalen. He never imagined an ambush here, let alone that one move would kill a companion and gut another. All 3 were at the 6th level of Starfall transformation. Yet Kalen had hidden from their senses, revealed himself despite being outnumbered and outcultivated, and struck anyway. The man was insane. Even with a full realm advantage, the elder had no stomach for a fight. Kalen's opening had been too terrifying. Without hesitation, Kalen recalled his longsword aura erupting as he charged. The elder's eyes widened. Kalen was faster, far faster. Escape was impossible. Desperate, he crushed a signal jade slip from his storage bag, then manifested a long spear. As the Luminar Patriarch, he favored spears, but his was only a yellow rank magic weapon. Kalen's profound rank blade, a relic from Gavrik forged by the Misty Immortal Palace, outclassed it entirely. Cultivation gap aside, Kalen was no ordinary 5th level cultivator. The 9 transformations of Starfall transformation let him contend with 7th level experts. The elder was swiftly overwhelmed, forced onto the defensive. Spear and sword clashed. Several times Kalen could have ended it, but he held back. He needed the man alive for answers. Finding an opening, he flicked his wrist and knocked the spear away. Not good. The elder twisted, but too late. Silverleaf light flashed, both hands severed, falling useless to the dirt. A kick followed, driving blood from the elder's mouth. Kalen dragged him over to the two dying men and dumped all three together. "Tell me, how many did the Luminar send this time?" His voice was ice. "Go to hell," the maimed elder snarled. "Kill me if you want, I'll say nothing." Without a word, Kalen swung. Legs separated from torso. The elder shrieked, agony raw. He'd meant to stall. He hadn't expected such immediate, merciless ruthlessness. In moments he'd lost every limb, a living cripple. Kalen turned to the man whose stomach had been blown open. "Your turn to speak." Under Kalen's icy gaze, the Luminar elder, his stomach laid open, trembled violently. He wanted to stand his ground, but a glance sideways showed his companion reduced to a screaming trunk, hands and feet severed, begging for death. The elder swallowed hard, abandoned his defiance, and nodded rapidly. "I'll talk. We sent 8 clan elders this time. The patriarch came himself." He recited the entire operation without omission. After arriving in Ebonreach City, they had lost contact with the 2 cultivators Kalen had killed during the day. Realizing he was no ordinary target, they split into 3 groups to search separately. Intelligence placed Kalen at the 5th level of Starfall transformation. Luminar elders were at least 6th. Even with exceptional talent, he shouldn't have stood a chance in a head-on fight. He might take 3 6th level elders alone. But even that was uncertain. No one expected him to use the 2 corpses as bait, lying in ambush nearby until they lowered their guard. Each blow killed one and crippled another. "How did you know I was heading to the extreme immortal sect?" Kalen looked down coldly. "Who leaked my whereabouts?" "This?" The elder clutched his stomach, intestines spilling, and gritted his teeth. "I truly didn't know. The patriarch handled everything, we only followed orders. Please let us go." Pale from blood loss, he wouldn't last long without treatment. The other elder, reduced to a human stick, was even worse, blood gushing from severed limbs, barely able to howl, hovering at death's door. "My lord, I've told you everything. Please let us go. In your next life, don't cross the wrong people." Silverleaf light flashed from Kalen's longsword, and the elder's voice cut off. The other met the same end, throat slit. Kalen's gaze sharpened. He collected the 5 storage bags and the long spear, then vanished. A sneak attack only works once. Intelligence indicated 5 more clan elders and the patriarch were present. A signal had been sent, the Luminar family would arrive soon. "Can't rest in other cities this time, we leave immediately." Kalen ran through the undergrowth, muttering to himself. The battle had been brief but costly, 1 killed instantly, another crippled with a throat-crushing lock, the last defeated head-on. He had already taken the Star Chart elixir to restore spiritual power, which was gradually recovering. He headed east, pausing frequently to scan for ambushes or pursuers, time-consuming, but essential for survival. The 3 Luminar elders had just fallen. The other 2 groups arrived shortly after, the patriarch among them. "Damn it! It has to be that little beast," bloodshot eyes, furious. "That bastard went too far. I'll grind him to dust." Judging by the scene, he ambushed them, otherwise this wouldn't have happened. The patriarch's voice was harsh. "He can't have gone far. Split up and chase. But don't stray too far. We kill him this time." Rage drove them. They stored the 3 corpses and pursued east. Regardless of outcome, the Luminar family had suffered devastating losses, 3 6th level elders dead. Kalen proceeded cautiously, covering 50 miles eastward. His spiritual energy peaked. He passed through a city without stopping. The Luminar family would be hunting like madmen now. Location wouldn't matter, they'd attack on sight. His guess proved accurate. The pursuing elders had bloodshot eyes. Spies in every surrounding city would report his appearance instantly. No questions, just death. A day and night blurred past without rest. He wasn't traveling, he was fleeing. Twice he dealt with cultivators trailing him, all drawn by the Luminar family's bounty. 500 spirit stones for information on Kalen. Enough to drive most independent cultivators insane. Damn it, more company. Kalen sensed another group closing fast, high cultivation, great speed. It's Kalen found him, alert the patriarch and the others. "Don't run, little beast, prepare to die." The Luminar elders had caught up. 3 of them, desperate, using gathered intelligence to track him. Kalen's cautious pace and 2 prior battles had slowed him. The 3 elders radiated murderous intent, eyes blazing with hatred. Cedric had lost an arm, restorable, but Corvin's foundation was damaged, his future cultivation slowed, and Kalen had killed 3 clan elders, blood feud, Prepare to die, a pursuing elder roared, hurling a throwing knife. Kalen tracked the rear. Gladius in hand, he knocked it aside, but the other two elders flashed in, cutting off escape. He gripped his longsword, expression grave, facing the three who surrounded him. You little beast, today you die. Kalen, brat, prepare to die,